My entire government.
Okay, I think we are live.
So they
Well, welcome everyone. Uh, as you all see, we are still gathering in this room, but we're going to go ahead and get started because I appreciate all of you all that are tuning in, and I wanted to respect time. We're going to try to keep the time. We're gonna try to manage the time a little bit better this go around. Okay, so that's a promise. We'll see if I'm able to keep it. But welcome to this installment of the Tequila Tales. I'm your host Isaac Paul. And man, as always, it is a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Where should we begin? For those of you all that do not know what the Tequila Tales is, it is a highly engaging and fully interactive discussion on love and relationships. What it is not is a panel discussion, right? And what I mean by that is we could have easily just gotten a few experts and had them blow out a bunch of facts and figures and telling you their opinions. But with the Tequila Tales, our motto is with love, we all have a story to tell. And so that's what we try to do is we try to get people to engage by actually telling us their stories. Okay. We don't have many rules with the Tequila Tales, but we do have one rule, and it is kind of a golden rule, and it's just that of respect. It's just respect. Now, what do we mean by respect? We mean kind of respecting the microphone a little bit, right? And by respecting the microphone, it's a little bit easier now in the virtual world because we do kind of keep a tight handle on the soundboard. And so what that means is on occasion when it gets a little uproarious, you may hear everyone just go flat for a moment. And that's just so that we can kind of maintain some organization. But it's not to cut people off intentionally. It's just because, while we can all sing together, we can't all talk together. But the main thing about respecting is just kind of respecting one another's opinions and their ideals. Okay, so it's just not attacking people for having a different viewpoint as you. But let me share with you what respect does not look like. Respect does not mean agreement. I will repeat that. Respect does not mean agreement. So if it becomes too kumbaya in this room, I will play devil's advocate. If it becomes too kumbaya in this room, I will play devil's advocate, and you will not know when I am playing devil's advocate because I will vehemently argue a point. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and kind of pan out and just see who's in the room. I know some more people will be gathering shortly. How you guys doing? Look at it. We already got people that fell off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's me, me and my team and a few others. So thank you guys for participating in this discussion thus far. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right into the topic. I always like to start by reading a brief synopsis of what we're going to be discussing. So this topic is called Inside the Bubble. Okay, Inside the Bubble. So it's been approximately 7 months since the World Health Organization declared COVID a pandemic and our world completely changed. While many of us are taking necessary precautions to remain safe and healthy, on multiple levels, we're attempting to establish some semblance of normalcy as we slowly re-engage in our daily lives and activities. Even our beloved sports franchises have opted to operate inside the bubble to allow them to resume their functioning. But while in this bubble, attempts to offer some, while this bubble, attempts to offer some additional layers of protection, there are several rules and parameters that must also change to allow this new paradigm to work. Similarly, in our own personal lives, we find ourselves making many augmentations to things that were once so simple. How can one determine what's truth in a world run by algorithms that curate our information? Does being too open-minded make you overly susceptible to being manipulated? And lastly, in what ways will cuffing season be altered due to the current circumstances? Right. So for those of you all that don't know exactly what cuffing season is, we will discuss that shortly. Okay, so where we're going to begin is I kind of want to talk about the social dilemma. The social dilemma. So just by a show of hands, because I'm curious, how many of you guys have seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma? Just want to see if it's just, oh, wow, it's only okay, so only two of us? Oh, goodness. All
you
right,
would
well,
make three.
You said, well, oh, okay, three.
You would make three.
Yes, I will make three. So,
Quick
for
math.
those of you, you said what?
Quick math. Quick math.
So we're gonna get a little deep off the top, right? So we're just gonna dive right into it. And many of you guys that haven't seen, the Netflix documentary, it's okay, but I'm going to read the storyline synopsis of what the Social Dilemma is all about. So it says, set in the dark underbelly of Silicon Valley, the Social Dilemma fuses investigative documentary with enlightening narrative drama. Expert testimony from tech whistleblowers exposes our disturbing predicament. The services big tech provides, search engines, networks, instant information, etc., are merely the candy that lures us to bite. Once we're hooked and coming back for more, the real commodity they sell is their prowess to influence and manipulate us. Okay. So, like I said, for those of you all that haven't seen it, I highly recommend the documentary. It may scare you shitless, but it's incredibly informative and very entertaining. But for those of you guys that have seen it, like I said, it's just a few of us so far. What would you say was your major takeaway from it?
Stay off social media.
You said what? Stay off social media.
Stay off social media.
So, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it was an amazing documentary, but it definitely highlights how much the world is changing and how much we don't know about social media, right? As consumers, right? And I think one of the quotes was, if you don't know, I guess what you're buying, then you're the consumer, right? So when you think about social media, it's really all about selling you something, right? And we don't know that as people. Like we it's our data that's being used to sell us something and to keep us on social media, which is fascinating, right? And one of the other things, I think one of the quotes from the documentary was that it was very powerful, that there was like, if you notice that social media calls its members users, and there's only two people that call their customers users, is drug dealers and social media.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I love the documentary. I absolutely love the documentary. There were quite a few things that I actually taken from it. One of the things was, the initial intent of the of social media was not that it was just to make connections with loved ones, or maybe businesses or whatnot. They talked about the implementation of the like button and how their intent was initially to show love, and it just grew into this place where it was like, oh no, I don't have enough likes, and it became this hunger for likes now, and if you didn't have that, it made you feel like less of a person. I love that documentary. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. There's so much information in there. It almost makes you want to delete your social media altogether.
Oh wow.
And just a PSA real quick, like in terms of when likes, like getting likes, don't like your own posts. Like it's of course you like it. You posted it.
That. I fucking hate that.
Like just give it time. Give the algorithm time to pick up. And
you know what I'm saying? I'm like, of course you liked it. You posted it. So like you giving yourself like this whole nother like big up.
I'm gonna love me, it'll make other people love me as well.
Look, there was something else. There's another takeaway from the documentary, and I wanted to bring this to the forefront. When we talk about the algorithm, right? It's going to show you the things that you take the most time, interacting with. So something that I started to think about was our differences in Democratic and Republican parties, and how people will go on to say, oh, well, say for instance with the debate where Trump claims, oh, well, all I see is the left doing this, that, and the third, and yeah. When you go into social media and you think about these algorithms, all you're seeing are these videos of people on the left doing things in contrast to what they're actually doing. And for the people that are on the left, we're not seeing anything positive about the right, because this is all that we're seeing according to the algorithm. This is all it's allowing us to see, or all it's putting in front of us. What it means is that people need to do more research instead of just going with what is in front of them, going to Google and actively searching for things, because we'll go to Facebook and that'll be our news source. My friends posted this, the algorithm shows me this. I don't know any other side of it. And I don't care to listen to any other side, because it's so outlandish to believe that anything is outside of what I've seen. Right? I just think
let me hop in here right quick, because I checked out the documentary, And in all honesty, I think I fell asleep on like the last little bit of it because I just feel like when I was checking it out, it was a lot of things that I already had in mind and I already suspected. Social media, like I utilize it a lot because of what I do as a business person, as an athlete, and it helps me to achieve X, Y, and Z things. But I always felt like, per the documentary, there was something more that they were extracting in terms of data collection. I feel like it's certainly one of those things where they are analyzing behavior, thought process. Why are you clicking this? Why are you watching this? Like, how does this help us to create this algorithm? Why does this video have 1 million views? Blah, 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 blah. And in this world of artificial intelligence, some of the other documentaries that I've been checking out, and I wish that I could think of, there's a YouTube original series, and I can't think of the name right now. I think it's called like The Age of AI or something. I don't know. But in this world of artificial intelligence, like, yeah, they are trying to learn about behavior and conscience and be able to give. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Do you guys, for those of you who saw it, and then even the doc that you were talking about, Lex, like, do you guys feel that there's any benefit to this? Like, it sounds like this is this scary thing, this dark, social media is bad and we should delete it all. I haven't seen it yet, but do you guys see that there's any benefit in, what they described, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's benefit. I definitely think that there's benefit in having it. The problem is, like, depending on what year you were born, I think that some of us are able to distinguish between, like, okay, this is cool, I can consume this, like this is funny, this is useless, or this is something that I should learn from and can be educated from. But for our youth right now, who are growing up in the 2000s, like, it's a different type of situation. And if this is an environment that you are used to thriving in and you're living in, and this is all you know, then I feel like it could be more of a detrimental thing, because they're not able to decipher between, like, okay,
what's real and what's
fact and this is fiction.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
As somebody that works in tech, and Kathy, you probably were going to jump in at some point on this. We're all being manipulated. Like, a lot of these things aren't like based off of like our own likes and our interests, right? A lot of these algorithms are made by people creating tests that don't look like us, that don't come from our communities, and so. I think it's great, again, like you were saying, for our generation, like, we know how to navigate around that, but the younger generation doesn't know how they're being manipulated.
Right. And you make it, hey, I'm hyped right now because I talk to my girl about this all of the time. And she always jokes about me when I call TV programming. I call radio programming, because at the end of the day, it is a program and it is intended to drive your thinking in a certain fashion. It is taught to like you to behave in a certain way. And I just feel like we need to be very mindful of these things, because, man, hey.
Let me ask you something, Lex.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, do you believe that we in any way can control that programming? And how would you say that we do so?
I think that, if you flip on the TV and you watch a Netflix special or something, i.e. The Social Dilemma or anything related to that, whatever you may click on, Netflix or Hulu or whatnot, I don't think that we have any control in that, because there were people who created that, and now they're just disseminating it through those networks. Now, if I were to get on a radio show or a TV show and we're doing an interview, then the producers and whoever else are involved behind the scenes, of course, have questions. But you can drive that narrative, and as a person, when you're having that conversation, you can be able to shift the conversation to be like, all right, well, yeah, that may be true, but I feel like this should be highlighted as well. This is what I'm involved in as well. This isn't true because of X, Y, and Z reasons. So you have more control in those types of situations to be able to drive that conversation and that narrative.
So one question that I have, and it's kind of to piggyback off of what you just asked, Daniel, is, you know, how intentional would you guys say you are in the curation of your news feed? Like, do you all use like Facebook has a see first option? You know, do you all actually get in like that? Are you all actively unfollowing people? Like, how intentional are you when you curate what it is that you see, or do you just I've liked these people and you kind of just let Facebook do it for you?
No, I've started to delete people. I've also started to be an asshole and correct people in how they speak and what they post also, because you're constantly seeing.
Wait, are you like grammar police or just like the things that they're saying?
I'm getting back to grammar police because and people are reposting memes with incorrect grammar, and I'm thinking, I thought these were intelligent people. These why they were my friends in the first place. And I'm starting to lose a whole lot of friends based upon what they post and actually the things that they're saying in the current climate.
I also am like, I like to fact check a lot of this stuff because, you know, everything that you're seeing, like, you know, somebody will post a tweet and, you know, because there's been so many that have been like fake, I will go to Twitter and see if I can find that tweet. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been so many times where like you retweet a tweet, people are like, that's a fake tweet. It's like, okay. So I always like, if somebody posts something, somebody sends me something, I'm just always going to fact check because, you know, you never know, right? Like I think with, you know, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, especially, somebody posts something, you share it. By the time, you know, you don't know what the date is, you know, sometimes, right? Somebody posts something, everybody's all up in arms and it's like, this is from 2016.
Right.
Right.
So I have to do a lot of my fact checking on that.
Okay, so to answer your question, I'm intentional about the things that I'm posting, but not as much about the people I'm following. I mean, I'd certainly unfollow people that are just reckless or that I just completely disagree with. But I do notice that I let the algorithm create what my timeline looks like. And it's probably bad, but I didn't even think about it.
Another PSA.
Okay.
No one is going to change their political views because you keep posting memes of the opposite party. I just want to put that out there because my timeline is flooded with political memes and I don't see anyone changing their stance because you post a dope meme.
Well, we need to change the people that are undecided though, that don't know, right?
How many people are really undecided though? Like
I don't.
Like people were talking about the debate and the people are like, for all the undecided voters, I'm like, how many people are really undecided at this moment? Like,
somebody said before the debate, like whoever you're rooting for in the debate, they won already. Like,
hey, but as a side note too, I do a lot of different facilitate different programs for companies for whatever reasons, and I've done work with social media groups before, and it says something when they themselves say that we don't allow our kids to get on social media. Like,
wow.
Well, you also have the suicide rate among young girls has gone up because of social media, right? Yeah. I didn't know little girls were that mean. I thought boys were always mean, but man, girls take it to a whole new level.
But they have all children are mean. Let's not
oh yeah, for sure.
Put it on a certain gender.
No, but they said that. They said boys, like if they're bullied online, it's just like usually like but whatever.
Do you think boys
they go
don't
play a game.
Girls? I mean,
I think boys bully, but the studies shown little girls like 12 and 13-year-olds could be really mean girls to other girls, right? Like, but they're saying with boys, when they're bullied, it's just I'm just gonna log off
and then I go play my game. I know that you can make data sound the way that you want it, but I will say it.
No, this is the studies.
No, I get it, but I'm
studies.
saying boys,
not my study.
Girls bully boys, like it all happens.
But also, I think we also have to realize that when we think about girls are getting bullied by girls and boys, where boys are only getting bullied by the same gender. Like for the most part, I'm as the 14-year-old girl, I'm not going to bully a boy. You know what I'm saying? So women are getting it from both sides. So I think that's kind of what you're saying.
I would
Man, these kids
respectfully
better go on
disagree.
somewhere. I
would
didn't want them to
respectfully
bully my
disagree.
kid.
As a young man,
I will
when
beat
I
up
was
a
like
kid.
from like 12 to 13, I was bullied by both. There was no.
You're an outlier. You're like
you were bullied by girls.
That was 2 years.
Then you'll be thinking.
Listen, Brittany still bullies Daniel today, so that's not even valid.
Exactly.
No, Daniel. Look. No.
No, you a bully.
He said from 12 to 13. So that was 1 year versus like some of these girls are getting bullied from 9 to 16. You got bullied by girls for 1 year. Probably when you hit a growth spurt.
What I'm speaking of in particular is, I mean, bullying happens from both sides. It's not girls, in my opinion, it's not a girls only, or girls are bullied by boys and girls and boys are only bullied by, no.
So you think there's on both sides?
Yes, and it's a difference in how we're bullied and how that affects us. What you may never really hear from a guy is how we're hurt by some form of bullying. You may never hear that. We'll just be quiet. But the bullying happens in a lot of different ways. I was a short, pudgy kid. All the way up to like, exactly. All the way up to all the way up to my junior year in high school. I was a short, pudgy kid. I had girls say all sorts of stuff about my height, my weight. There were even girls that compared me to my brothers and saying, like, your brothers look fine. What happened to you? You know,
ouch.
Was
Tell
I
them to look at
like,
you now.
Listen, just to Omar's statistic, I have a feeling that it's not simply about bullying. Like girls are constantly or they're looking at images of what their bodies are supposed to look like, or what they, society says their bodies are supposed to look like. So it may not just be direct, but yeah, if it is a higher percentage for girls, I think it's a number of different factors.
Yeah, I agree. Because even if you think about grown women, I do believe that men look at maybe social media and think, oh, maybe I should do this, but I don't think it's to the level of, I feel like women are presented with images of this is how you're supposed to look. And I feel like a lot of men see that and they're like, maybe I don't want to do that. And I think women feel that pressure a little bit more.
Well, Kathy, just from the marketing standpoint, studies show that men don't spend money and they can't be marketed to the same way that women can. So you can't necessarily market to a man by telling him how inadequate he is and what he needs and think that's going to inspire him to spend. He's more inclined to be like turned off to the messaging and go somewhere else, versus women are more inclined to be like, oh, I'm at a deficit for everything. So coming from like a media background, men there's no money in terms of like bigger media. There's not really money in men spending as much as women. So I think that's why you see it.
About butt and boobs.
But here's the thing. I agree, because I feel like I've been talking to a lot of women about plastic surgery, and I'm not a plastic surgery person, but I feel like every woman I know is like, well, if there's anything I dislike about myself, I'm just going to fix it. And I'm like, I think I grew up kind of raised by like men and my brothers. So I'm just kind of like, oh, I'll just stick with it. But I feel like women have been, I don't know, marketed to, trained to believe that if there's something wrong with me, I need to fix it. Versus men who are like, oh, I can live with it. This hairline, maybe.
I don't know. Jacinta got me wanting to go ahead and get a nice little man weave because my hairline.
If you need somebody to help suggest some options, let me know.
Well, you know what? At least you're wearing a hat, right? See,
if you've noticed, I've been wearing hats.
But here's the thing, right? Men will wear hats, Men have.
Wait, how many men on this call are wearing hats right now? Do we need to have like a collective moment of like togetherness and y'all just do an unveiling?
Unveiling.
Well, give me a moment. Give me a moment. I can go get a hat.
No.
You gotta go get your hat.
Hold on, let me tell you. Don't do that. I've been traumatized. I remember one time I was talking to this guy. He was really.
Girl, that's because you like hair. You are so judgmental against men who don't have hair. Like, look at that shine. He took his hat off. I was like, you get a little bit of almond oil, jojoba. That looks good.
Hold on. I was engaged to a man who was bald. Remember, I was engaged to somebody who was bald. Don't get it twisted. But I do like hair. But
that's equal opportunity.
You know what? I just saw a meme earlier today that said something to the degree of like how I just saw it a moment ago about how many women at the age of 14 have wigs or something like that. I literally just saw it a moment ago when they were like I've never seen so many 14-year-olds with wigs.
Yeah. Also,
they had the little brandy braids back in the day.
You said what? They had brandy braids.
Yeah.
Isaac, how was the grammar on that meme that you saw?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. It could have come from a Russian, right? But we'll get to that in a moment.
Young Jay.
Okay, so I asked you guys about no, I didn't ask you guys about it. Casey, a moment ago, you made the comment about unfriending, and I'm curious to know, like how often do you guys find yourself unfollowing or unfriending someone, and like what typically is the reason? And does that feel extreme? Like, isn't that kind of an extreme thing? Like that means something, right? When you unfriend someone. What has to happen in order for that to occur?
Isaac, you can do that thing where you can remove them, but you're still friends with them.
Right, like unfollow them. Right. So we still
unfollow.
connected. I just don't see your stuff.
Right, or snooze them. Right, or you can snooze them for 30 days. So you got options.
Extreme when you project your issue onto someone else, and the way they are works for them. So there's people that I mute for a while, or I'll unfollow for a little bit, who I maybe know in real life, and their personalities don't match up to what they present. But like, I'm not gonna like make that their problem. So I'll just fall back for a little bit because I have their number. Versus I think it's extreme if you like are calling them out on something that has nothing to do with you. It's like your problem. They're happy with the way they are.
So you'll unfollow because or snooze, as you said, because you're just like, I'm not in the mood to deal with this right now, and I don't want to have negative thoughts about them. So like, let me just take a 30-day.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely done that. And I think that it's like, for me, I consistently will go through my timeline and curate, like do a check-in of like, who am I connected to? I think Facebook is one of those places where you get a lot of people who you met once, or from high school or college or whatever. And sometimes it's like, I have actually no intention of having this person in my life whatsoever. Like, I don't need to be connected to them. So every once in a while I go through and clean it up, more so to manage my own energy and boundaries and who I'm giving access to. Because on the flip side, my Instagram is public. Like, if people want to know what's going on with you, they can figure it out. But I think that some platforms give a false sense of intimacy. And I don't want you thinking that we're closer than we are.
I think I'm a hoarder of friends on Facebook. Like, like I feel like at a point somebody may share something that I really desperately need to know. So I've met them once at a cocktail party 9 years ago, and they're still my friend. I have no idea who they are.
You're a pack rat of friends on Facebook.
Yes, I just have them stored. Like, I just
I've unfriended a couple people, and it's very organic the way I do it, because I don't have time to like read through, and I'm not actually on there all day every day. So if I'm on there and I constantly your name keeps popping up because you keep saying some ratchet something about some illegal you did, something just so
right,
or something like that. Like, I don't know. If it gets to too many times, I give you like 2 times, and then I'll be like, okay, I don't need that. Like you said, it's just like energy. I don't need all this.
You never posting illegal shit on Facebook. They were trying to get caught.
Girl, you just
people do it though.
Stuff will just come in. I'm like, why are you telling all of your business? And if he did take your purse and leave the house and didn't come back for 4 days, we don't need to know. That's kind of something that's personal. So yeah.
There was a dude in Chicago after the looting. There were plenty of people, advertising the product that they'd stolen on Facebook.
I unfollowed a couple people from that.
It's a dude I know. He promotes.
I don't want to have no relations to that.
Not at all.
A dude I know. He promote drugs online on Facebook.
Promote drugs.
What do you mean?
He does.
Like cocaine?
Like weed. Like he sells weed or whatever, and then he posts guns, and he got arrested, right? And the first thing he did when he got out of jail, he went back on Facebook and said, "I'm gonna find out who's snitching."
So my thing on Facebook that I probably need to do is I follow some people who have become hoteps. We were friends like recently, and so now the posts start like you just hear them. Like, it's just.
I want to ask, were they woke fishing? Because I heard something about that in the podcast I listened to.
No, one dude is definitely one is definitely a hotep. Another one is like hotep adjacent, but it's just like every time he posts something, it's just like, and they're like, there's 2 guys specifically. One, like me and like we're all friends with him from like I think we all met like over 10 years ago. We were all part of an organization, and so we all collectively got together and been like, "Yo, so and so is a hotep, huh?" And it's like, yeah, but we still like him. But it's like when he sometimes love his posts, or sometimes like I've had to like not engage. Initially, he would post a Hotep post, and I would engage, and it would cause a big problem because all his friends are Hoteps. So now I'm just like, now I'm like, you know what? Why am I arguing with people on the internet? That causes wrinkles. That causes bad energy.
Like, Kathy, what kind of Hotep shit is he saying?
Like, I was wondering. Okay, so perfect example. He's the dude that, like, he's a Black Israelite. So that's it.
Clearly.
He's a Black fool.
So he's a Black Israelite. So everything is about like, not voting, anti-abortion. Even though he's like, I paid for a lot of abortions back in the day, but I'm anti-abortion because we got to build up the Black race, stuff like that. It's just, why
are you still friends with him on there? Like,
here's the thing.
Is it for laughs?
We're friends in real life, and he's cool, and he doesn't talk about that in regular day-to-day stuff. But when it's like his views on that, we're just like, ugh. So like, I know him through a bunch of people. Like when I see him out, it's like it's all love. But is it? But
I guess the question, like, how do you successfully compartmentalize people who are actually problematic? And so you're like, oh, in real life he's this way, and I want to keep his friendship, but he's actually perpetuating shit that's not good at this point. So how are you able to be like, oh, I want to keep him in my sphere? Like, what value does he have to you?
You know what? It's more so I'm probably one of those people where
does he look good?
No. It's more so I'm definitely one of those people like I can't, like, I know a lot of people want to curate their timeline so it only looks a certain way. I do need to understand what's happening on this other side, because before him, there was a lot of stuff I just wasn't aware that people believed. Like I didn't really, like, I had heard the term Hotep, but it was like very, very like foreign and like out there. And then like one day, like he started posting and I was like, this is what a Hotep is. Oh my gosh. Like, so it's almost like
Hotep's around, for sure.
Yeah. No, not even shits and giggles, but kind of like how you watch Fox News.
Just to make sure you're not gonna blow some up and you wasn't aware.
Right. And because here's the thing. I like some of the stuff he posts, I'm just like, wow, there's people, and then like I'll see his comments. So it's actually helpful for me to understand it, but I've had to learn. Don't engage with this because these people are on this whole Hotep pick me like spiral that you like. If you get in those comments, it's gonna drag you down. I don't even look at the comments. I just look at the post and be like, ooh, that's a Hotep post. Because not all posts are Hotep posts. Because yeah. But it's also very good for me. Like the other guy I might not keep around because I met him when like we were kids, and so how like people when you were kids like 11 and like that jump from high school to college is a big I don't know, it's a big gap. So him I could get rid of, but this guy I knew as an adult. So he's part of my adult friend group. But like I think something happened around, I think Hurricane Katrina, something happened and he became Hotep. So.
And Aisha, like to the question you were asking, Kathy, like I think sometimes, like she mentioned, it is important to keep an eye on or just be in the space of people who don't always, because not everyone thinks the same as you. And I think that we sometimes are in these bubbles, and just because we feel like certain things that other people feel are problematic doesn't necessarily mean they should be completely written off. So I think there is a balance for your mental space, but in certain areas, I think you do yourself a disservice to not be fully aware of some of the other people that are in these different spaces and circles and kind of knowing what they're thinking. Like, I didn't know the Proud Boys existed until the other night. So
living in the West Coast, so like Tina and I live in Seattle, so the Proud Boys regularly come up to Seattle and wreak havoc. Tina and I live 5 minutes away from each other. They wreak havoc everywhere. So I think that I know everyone uses social media different. I don't need my social media timeline the algorithm to feed me stuff. I seek out the information to get what the other side is thinking. But I'm always curious for people who they actually kind of judge and don't think highly of their opinions in their intimate space. That to me is always interesting, but I also realize I'm not someone who compartmentalizes friendships successfully. So I know that some people have that strength and they have different people around for different reasons.
So I've got some strategy here because on Facebook, Bria had a good point about how you can unfriend people. She said, I unfriend people on their birthday. It's the easiest way to weed through those old people that I'm not necessarily connected to anymore. I say happy birthday first, though. So congratulations to Bria. Good job. Because you know what? They do put that at the bottom where they say, you know, these are these people's birthdays. And about a large percentage of the time, I don't know, 90% of them clowns. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how did I even get connected to you? I might start doing that. Now, quick question, though, you guys, because I am kind of curious. Like, before I shift away from the unfriending, have you ever gone to someone's page only to realize that you've been unfriended, right? And if that's the case, because every once in a while you'd be like, you know, I might look through my memories and I'll see someone that made a comment on something and I'll say, oh, snap, you know, oh, shit, I ain't heard from them in a while. You know, I'm curious. Let me see what they on. And then I click and it's like, add friend. And I'm like, oh, you unfriended me? You know what I mean? Like me, I'm like the most cornbread. Like nothing I say is racy like that. Where you need to be unfriended.
Have you heard yourself?
You use nigga liberally, so it could be offensive to people.
Nigga, what is wrong with that? I'm black. I should be able to use nigga. Okay?
That's about me. I'm just trying to audit your page.
But I'm saying though, like, how did that make you feel? Like, if that's ever happened to you, like, one, do you care? Two, how does that make you feel? Like, I'm just curious. I just want to know, like, what exactly did I do? What was the post that took you over the line? Was it when I talk about Long John season? Is it like there's a couple of things that I just want to know, like, what was the thing I did where you was just like, you know what?
You know, I had that happen with me. It's been years, but there was a girl. We were actually friends in real life. We would hang out and do stuff, and she was getting ready to move, and I just felt like it was more so like she's one of those people, like whenever she moves, she like not unfriends like everybody, but the large majority of the people she knows, she like doesn't want to associate with them because she wants to start over new. But the problem was she unfriended me and like she was about to move next week and she was having a party. And so I was like about to hit her up, like I saw something about the party on Facebook and I was about to hit her up and I was not her friend. But we had just talked on the phone. I'm just like,
damn.
But so it was one of those things where it was just weird, but you know, like other, you know, come to find out other stuff. Like basically she was crazy. But most of the time, I just think it's most of the time people are probably like Aisha, where it's just like, you know what, this is my personal space. Like, you know, I want it curated a certain way. And maybe, you know, we are associates and I want to cut down. Cause I know a lot of people are like, I want my Facebook to be just friends. And if you're an associate or, you know, if you drop a tier or whatever, they'll cut you.
But right? what about when they unfriend you and then they want to be your friend again?
Oh,
that's how I find out that I have been unfriended.
I think
I'll be on my merry way. And then I'll get friend requests. I'm going through friend requests. I'm like, we were already friends. And then I'm like, oh, so you got unfriend remorse. Oh, okay. Decline. No, let's stay unfriended.
I've done that before. I've unfriended somebody and definitely I've unfriended someone because I was in a mood and I was going through and I think I deleted like 50 people. And I really did come back to them and say, I'm sorry. I like was doing a mass purge and I got rid of you, but like, I want to like, I'm sorry. But this is people I know in real life. So I can have a real life conversation and they know me.
Yeah.
Like,
mine too. I know them in some capacity where like, if I saw them on the street, they would, you know, give me that little fake church hug and, hey girl, you know.
I've had a dude slide in my DMs because I deleted him and he was like, why won't you add me? And I was like, because I don't want to. And he like went back and forth with me about it. A dude from my old church. It's always the church people. Like, you stay pressed. And I was like, why do you want to be connected with me so bad on Facebook? And then he didn't say anything ever again. So
yeah, I was gonna say I got that with really like one of my best friends in middle school. She like is super Christian saved, and she was just like, yeah, some of your posts are like controversial, and I just don't want to see it. And I was like, that's cool, like that's fine. Right.
But the thing is, I don't know. I didn't know that I've been unfriended by people. So
I'm gonna give you guys a moment of go ahead, brother.
No, there have been occasions in which people's Facebooks have been hacked as well. So you receive multiple requests for friends, then ultimately, it's happened like 3 times in which folks have got back to me to say, "Hey, the Facebook account has been hacked."
Oh
So,
yeah. Those actually be people who I'm still like friends with, like, because I'll search just to be sure on that, like, and I'll be like, do you know this? But I'll look and make sure that that's not a fake page, and I'm like, oh, okay, you just unfriended me, that's fine, I'm not giving you it back. No.
Well, people and because they go to Facebook jail so much also.
What's Facebook jail?
Well,
you're prohibited from posting. Like if you post something controversial, like I have a dude that goes to Facebook jail all the time, and I guess when the debate happened, he said something about like basically Trump was a lion sack of boop 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 boop, right? And so he's notoriously goes to Facebook jail like once a month, but it escalates. So basically, they put him in Facebook jail for 30 days. And so because initially it's like you can't post for like a day. But as it escalates, it becomes you could be in Facebook jail for 30 days. You are
go to Twitter.
Yo, I'm like baffled right now because people literally stay on Facebook still. Like I'm used to hearing people talk about Instagram and Twitter. Like Facebook is still a place where people like frequent on a daily basis. I get on.
My kids don't.
Okay.
Like, oh, that's for old people. That's for old people. But my kids are like 13 and 14.
Yeah, because I started my Facebook account when I was in college, like 2004-ish. And I remember that it was just for college students at the time. So it was the hot thing to be a part of. And then now it's just like, all right, I don't really mess with Facebook that much because there's so much going on. People requesting you to do this, that, and the third. So if somebody unfriends me on Facebook, all right, so be it. I don't really post anything that is controversial or out of the box. So if you want to be my friend, cool. If you don't, all right, that's cool too. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and I'll post and dip out when it comes to Instagram. But when it comes to friending and unfriending on that type of conversation, like I want to see some stuff that's like beneficial, things that I feel like are beneficial to like what I'm thinking, my life, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that people don't always have the same views as me, and that's totally fine. But as soon as you start to frequent your posts around, oh my gosh, I just had some really good, like the pancakes were great, and the way the syrup and butter was laid on the top of that, like you start talking about what you ate for breakfast and dinner and all of this other stuff, or what's another example that I see a lot? Like,
I just want to say we can't do too much Facebook slander because low key we on Facebook right now. So
no.
People shit on Facebook, but Instagram
everybody that's engaged right now is on Facebook. So not on my one.
And don't get me wrong, like I use that platform, so I'm not trying to bash them or anything.
Just like y'all still on Facebook.
You see how quick? You see how quick?
I ain't trying to bash them.
Lex, I have a question for you. So because professionally you have a very visible job as an athlete and an Olympian, do you have to be very careful of the people that you could be associated with online or the type of posts that you may be engaging with online, because someone could screenshot it and say, look at the type of shit he's co-signing?
I would say yes and a little bit of no. I feel like we've gotten to that space now where people will put in their profiles like my views are separate from Microsoft or whoever you may work for, and so that helps to say it again.
That never works.
It never works. Hey, you're right. Yeah. You're right. But at the same time, I mean, you got to put it up there. But I know me personally, I'm definitely cognizant of the things that I put up there, because I know that for a fact. Like, okay, even though I put that up there, people will be like, well, in 2012, you said that Obama such and such, or you felt like you supported whatever, and then they're pulling all of these things from 8, 9, 10 years ago, and throwing it in my face. So I'm definitely very cognizant of the things that I write, and before I hit that send button on making it live, because it's there to stay. You can delete it, but somebody still has access to that.
I have a question for everyone. So in terms of the type of Facebook friends or social media friends of the opposite sex that you keep, or of the gender that you are attracted to, whether it's, same sex, whatever, do you have to be careful about the type of people you're keeping as social media friends, or where do you draw the line in how people will be like, how familiar they feel with you? Do you ever have instances where maybe your partner is looking at your social media activity and you're like, oh, that's just someone on social, or that they know them in real life? Like, how do y'all navigate those types of friendships when it can get blurry?
I'm very careful.
I definitely know people who, like, friends who are like, oh, okay, I just went through your friends list. I went through the people that you follow on Instagram. What do you think about this person? Like, you think she's attractive? You don't think she's attractive? Like, what is it about her? Like you liking the photos and stuff like that. It's coming up in the history and the explore page, stuff like that.
I'm like, hell yeah, she fine. You see, she fine. What you talking about?
Never explain any of that.
No, wait a minute, Lex. You're saying a person you dated?
No. I mean, I'm just listening to, like, when I talk about like when we're at the athlete table and people are like, all right, well, man, I'm looking at your history, like, bro, what's going on? Like, is it like, let me get my thoughts together here.
Get your story together. We'll give you
right, because Casey, I don't know, my girl listening to this podcast, you trying to have me.
Al, what were you about to say? Because you had a comment that you were going to make.
Basically, no, I was saying was that the folks who are on my Facebook, friends anyway, have some sort of interaction, whether it's business, whether it's reunion or, college or high school related, or just personal family, things such as that. So very, very careful as to who I befriend on Facebook.
Al, who exactly is sitting behind you though?
Oh, that was me back in the day.
Like,
no, that's just it's a statuette. So I'm into music and all sorts of things. So
I like it. I'm just saying, he caught me off guard when you signed in. He gotta identify himself.
Yeah, that was me back in the day when I was wearing the hair.
So okay. I wanted to kind of dip in. I want to kind of double back to something before, because I wanted to give you guys this story time. Don't judge me either. All right, no judging. This is a no judging zone. But when we talk, wherever Brittany is, I'm glad she's not here. So what happened? I had a friend that we've been cool in real life or whatever for a period of time, but because of where we live and the places that we frequent, I wouldn't really see him outside of social media. This young woman convinced me that to kind of buy into the boards, if y'all know what I'm talking about.
What?
Down.
I'm not familiar. Wait.
Okay. So there was this, I don't know if it's still going on or not, but there was this pyramid scheme, so to speak, where you would give a certain amount of money to, or you invest in this board and your outcome would be 8 times the amount of your investment.
What did they call that? That had a name. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah. I don't even know what the name was, but
it had a name. Everybody was you all remember that. It was like you give like $400, and then after you move up, they still doing it now. They got it's
I
under
didn't
a
know
new
if they
name.
were still doing it. I didn't know if they were still doing it.
They rebranded and they do the exact same thing. But I'm sorry, go ahead though.
No, I mean, like, this friend of mine, like, they convinced me. They showed me their receipts to show that they'd actually got money for it, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and invest in it. But if anybody's ever been engaged in it, you know that they have a particular app that they use, and they're highly engaged. I mean, they're texting back and forth, sending pictures, and they expect the same of the people that invest in the board. If you're not somebody that's able to have that level of engagement, then you're considered a problem and wasting people's money. So this particular friend of mine was saying I needed to invite at least 2 people in. Everyone that I talked to was like, nah, I'm good on that. So it got into a point, of course, with the lack of engagement that I have from my personal engagements and work. This friend of mine just randomly unfriended me, and there's an option where you can make it so that someone doesn't follow you anymore either. And I noticed, I'm like, man, I don't see the stories anymore. She used to post these funny memes and all sorts of stories, and I was like, did you unfriend me? Yeah, I thought that you were a better person than that. You just wasting people's time and money, bring any more people into this board. And I was like, wow. Wow.
Omar is so entertaining.
I was like, that's what our friendship is. I got it. Okay, don't worry about it. I just wanted the clarity. Thank you very much for that clarity. You have a great life. Because I don't need that type of person in my life.
Somebody
the first
on
person to get
Facebook,
fired.
they said it's the Susu game. Is that what it was called? The Susu game?
But no, I think an actual Susu is a real thing that is actually good, but these other things are attempting to like mimic it, and they're scams. But like a Susu is actually like a legitimate thing that typically, like, I think families and friends who invest together and things like that, those are real. So you gotta know.
Everybody over time benefits from those versus the board sounds like it doesn't. Everybody doesn't always benefit.
Yeah.
Do you understand that you get fired from a Ponzi scheme?
On your day off.
On your day off.
Okay. So I got a question. And I'm trying to think of who was that touched on this a moment ago. It may have been you, Aisha. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper because, when we talk about the social dilemma and the fact that your news feeds are being curated, right? Like, so they are ultimately taking all the things that you're liking, and they are developing a model after you that can kind of in some ways make it predictive, right? I want to know how many of you all are intentionally following people whose points you do not agree with, so that you can keep your perspectives open. Like, I understood what it was that you said, Aisha. Like, to you, this is something that's intimate. So why would I want to bring someone inside of this space or bubble, right, if we will, whose points are going to make me feel some kind of way, right? Do you feel that, well, one, I want to know, does anyone intentionally do that? And two, do you think that there's a harm in doing so? In intentionally, like, for instance, like I follow, I'm trying to think of what I don't even know if I follow them, but clearly when I look at, you know how you'll look at a movie and then or a video, and they'll take you into like a gallery and they'll start curating a gallery based off of whatever that video was. They start showing me a lot of stuff that I know is pretty conservative, right? And I might find myself going down a rabbit hole for a while just because I want to see, is there any merit to the points that are being made? I'm trying to think, like Ben Shapiro, right? Like I'll sit up and I'll watch a couple of his videos. Now, I don't agree with everything that he says, but there are times where I'm like, okay, that was a logical argument, and I think it has some merit, and I personally don't ever want to get to a point where I'm so entrapped inside of my own zone that when I hear a dissenting view, I just explode. So I'll sometimes force myself to sit in that uncomfortable space. I don't necessarily want to see it in my news feed all the time, but I like to have a little bit peppered into my news feed just to keep it honest, right? Just to keep myself honest. So I'm just curious, like, do you guys do that intentionally, or are you just like, nah, I go to social media for enjoyment and I don't want to see that bullshit?
I do that with Twitter. Like, Twitter is my platform to do that. And I mean, I'll follow a conservative person, but they just can't be a conservative racist person. Okay. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think it's always good to have different points of view and, to have people that maybe make you think of things in a different way.
I'm with Tina. I do that a little bit on Twitter, but on Instagram. My Facebook, I have like family connected there. So Facebook for me is just not the platform where I don't use the platform that way. But on Instagram, I'll have a couple of people. But like Tina said, I'm not keeping people who don't believe in my humanity on my feed, because the way the algorithm works, you get served more of that. And I just believe in having some type of boundary to my mental sanity. But I will have people I follow who I don't agree with everything that they say. And then I'm also fully able to go to pages and search out that information when I'm interested in finding it, versus having it unfiltered, just in my view all the time.
Well, I don't do what you said, but sometimes I know people who do disagree with me. I let them keep being friends with me instead of unfriending them so that they can see my dopeness. And I will sometimes like preach to them subliminally, like, y'all need to know these facts. So sometimes like that's my intention.
Casey, do you see if they're seeing it? Like, how do you know you're not hidden?
I can see theirs pretty regularly. So I think the algorithm, like if you're seeing theirs, they're probably seeing yours. And then I also see that like they'll like certain things that are like very fluffy. Like I was talking about ice cream sandwiches the other day, and like this girl who I know is very conservative, she liked it. But whenever I talk about anything of substance, she's radio silent.
Lex literally disliked that post. He gave it a thumbs down.
I think that my social media is my opportunity to engage in the things that I want to engage in. More times than none, it's going to be, I kind of have that idea of like, all right, surrounding myself with people who have similar mindsets. So yeah, more times than none, if you're talking crazy or you're saying something that I really don't vibe with, I will probably hit that X button, whatever that may be. I do have friends. I get it. I do have friends who have different viewpoints, and that's totally fine. And they stay on the assembly line. But I go to I think outside of social media, I may go to the news to stay abreast on what's going on. I do think that is certainly good to know about other viewpoints and other perspectives, just in the realm of competition, since that's what I deal with on a daily basis. In the realm of competition, I need to know how to handle the opposition when it comes time for us to have a battle or war or a conversation, so I can stay educated on the topics at hand. I can be able to combat that.
I have a question for you, Lex. Obviously you're pretty open about being blind, but I imagine a lot of people aren't aware of that.
Yeah.
If you hear or see or hear, like people on social media saying things about people who have either, they're blind, they're deaf, whatever their situation is, does that make you feel a way? Or because sometimes I feel people are more defensive of you guys than you are of yourselves in that way. And I was just curious about your... Yeah,
no, I don't really bother me too much. I think that I've probably just gotten used to it, and I've built this fortress, if you will, at this point, I've heard it all.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, whatever. Some people are just ignorant to the fact, and some people, may not know, but they take the necessary steps to be like, all right, well, I just want to learn more so I understand. I think that in 2020, people are taking more of a like cognizant effort to be like, all right, well, I want to learn more. I want to figure this out so that we can include you, which is cool. Yeah. But I know that for the majority out there, they probably don't want to learn. And I'm not going to say that's fine, because it's not, but I've just gotten used to being like, all right, well, you can think what you think and you can say what you want to say, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what I need to do so that I can function through life successfully. Like, yeah. What you say and what you think doesn't have any type of bearing on what I do in this world.
Right. That's a good point.
We also acknowledge that, like, I get that we love social and it's fun to use, but like, if that's the only way that you're getting your information, that inherently is a problem itself. And we actively can find other ways to take in the world around us and learn about people, learn about issues. So we're putting a lot of stake in it, and I get that it's a relevant thing. But I think that we need to also know that there's a lot of valuable ways to engage with the world around us and to meet other people who have differing views. And I would hope that people are not relying on social media to be the only source of getting opposing views and having to follow people who are unlike them. I have friends who don't agree with me. Like, I don't curate a real life circle of friends around me who are yes people. I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people don't have friends around them that challenge them to grow. I think people dismiss people really easily and only want people around that kind of maybe confirm and validate the version of themselves they want. And you can do that with your social channel, but for me, I don't use social media like that. I think it's fun, but I have like real life friends who don't agree.
Yes, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that, because I feel like a lot of people, they hop on these social channels and they have this keyboard courage.
Yeah.
And they will say things on the social, and then you get in front of their face and they get in front of a group of people in person and will say nothing that they were posting on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
A lot of these influencers too, you meet them in real life and you're like, damn.
Yeah, I thought she was a whole different person.
You are a whole different person. Like where is that? You know,
Yeah.
It's hella disappointing.
That's that camera character.
You know what?
But that's
some might call it a representative.
Yeah, I think it seems like a lot of influencers are very introverted, and you meet them in real life and there's like no personality. But to talk about what you were saying is, Aisha, for me, like I realized that there were a lot of things I just was totally unaware of, hadn't been exposed to. So I think legitimately most of the people I'm friends with on social media, like, Instagram is different because Instagram, like you said, if you're
a whole ass fashion influencer, we get it.
No, not even that, because I feel like it's just, if you have an open social media, people just come in and do whatever. But, for Facebook, spans your whole life. Because I have people, I don't have my mom on my Facebook. I don't have my elders on my Facebook. Some people
get your mama can't follow you on Facebook.
No.
What are you posting on your Facebook?
No.
Are we friends? I need to friend you because I need to see why can't your mama follow you on Facebook?
Let me tell you. So my mama, all the like, my mother, first of all, is old school African woman, cooks every day, whatever. So all the kids I grew up with, she's friended, right?
Okay. Wait a minute. She friends with the people you grew up with, but she's not friends with you?
Correct. And the reason why is because she'll sit there and be like, so-and-so has such and such on their Facebook. And I'm just like, for real? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I have not accepted your request. Because she's out there badmouthing people, and I'm just listening like, for real, mama? She said what? Oh, okay.
You just reminding her you're not one of her little friends.
And here's the thing. my mother has I think she's forgotten. I don't know if she thinks I'm not on Facebook, because she sent me, well, first of all, I think my brother set her up with Facebook. She tried to friend request me. Me and my sister are like, no, but everybody that we grew up with is like, why don't you friend your mom? I'm like, no, like, you can be friends with Martha. That's cool. But I'm just not, because I know how my mother is. My mother's looking at everybody's stuff. She's like, calling people's mamas like, did you see what your child did on Facebook? No, not the kid. I know my mother. So
I'm with you.
Okay, so I've got this portion. It's a little heavy, so I need you guys to just give me a second, just kind of like ride with me as I read this, because I want to kind of twist this discussion a little bit now that we've gotten the social media part. But I've been reading and hearing from multiple sources about how many of the campaigns and movements that we as a culture jump aboard on have not originated inside the culture. Sometimes, and in many cases, they begin from outside, oftentimes foreign sources that have the pure purpose of sowing discord. So in essence, things that keep us fighting ultimately stop us from combining and collaborating. So I'm going to read two excerpts, one from the Observer Research Foundation, which said, they called it troll armies. And they said both human and automated carry out concerted campaigns, especially against religious or caste minorities and refugees, creating enemies out of ordinary people trying to live their lives. These campaigns prey on the most basic human emotions of fear and anger against corruption or unemployment or reservations, anger against any real or perceived economic or social privilege, for example, and fear of terrorism and refugees being a threat to security. The goal of disinformation is to divide and polarize society, make us less tolerant, believe that another group is worse than we are. And to add to that article was another excerpt I'm going to read from Scientific American, which said when the Facebook archive of Russian-generated memes was released, some of the commentary at the time centered on the centered on the lack of sophistication of the memes and their impact. This goes to what you were saying, Jay, about how a lot of times, like, they don't even have correct spelling on these memes, right? Makes you want to unfollow people. It says, but the research has shown that when people are fearful, oversimplified narratives, conspiratorial explanation, and messages that demonize others become far more effective. These memes did just enough to drive people to click the share button. And they were going on to say how pretty much people felt that these memes are ultimately what got Donald Trump elected. So to go back to the initial question, how certain are you that the emotions that you feel have not been manipulated by external sources, right? And the reason I'm asking is because I've heard from a couple of different sources that even things that we may hold dear and that we may see value in have been kind of accelerated by hackers, right? Or by people. Like I remember, and you guys, I don't want to turn this into this necessarily this narrative, but it was shared with me that someone read an article, and I don't know if this is hyperbole or if this is conspiracy, right? But they were saying that, like if you've noticed in like maybe the last probably year, 2 years, even things like regarding like when they say like that Black women don't feel protected. Now, this is something that's real, but what was shared with me was that there were a camp of Nigerians that were paid by Chinese people to push out a lot of these memes that kind of ratcheted up the narrative and made it mainstream, right? Like, not that it's not a real emotion, but just saying that how sometimes these things come into the forefront and starts to divide people, even though it might sometimes be a real emotion or a real feeling, your attention is being drawn to it because of an external force whose only intention was to divide. It was not to actually move you forward or to get you guys to come to some type of understanding. It was just to sow seeds of dissent. So like, how certain are you that your bubble is not corrupting you or influencing you in a way that is not beneficial for your livelihood?
I'm 100% sure, and it's because of therapy.
Look at you. Throw it out there.
There are people who have like created these fake, characters online that they impersonate, like, for example, Black women, right? And they'll say things that are like, things that Black women are, known to say, and they've kind of created this fake persona, and they've been outed later. I think if the foundation wasn't there, then it wouldn't, cause this discourse, right? I think that these are conversations that we need to have. And unfortunately, where a lot of these conversations, especially right now, are happening online, so they need to happen. But I don't think that that is the reason why Trump was elected, right? Like, I think that we have to have these important, and sometimes difficult conversations to kind of get to the bottom of it. We might not agree with the final solution, but I think that ultimately, the conversation needs to be had.
Something that I like that Eddie Lamar said on the Facebook live stream is he said, think about this week. People went from hating to having empathy, back to hating. It's a roller coaster. You have to be cognizant. And I really think a lot of people don't stand for anything, to all of a sudden reach down in the deepest of your soul and find hope for someone who literally is doing everything in their power to disenfranchise you. I think people don't stand for anything in terms of that.
Yeah. Honestly, I think to Aisha's point, I think I'm 100% sure, not because of therapy, but because the things that I do read and look at and all that, I typically look where the source is coming from. Even once I click on the source, if I see the article, I'll look at who the author is and what kind of things they always write. So I look at the intention, even if it's from a reputable news source. So for me, I'm not concerned, but I know that I like to deep dive into things like that, but I know most people don't. So I I take what other people post with a grain of salt, or, you know, I know that like friends and family of mine are very emotional, and they, every time they see something, they just share it. And I'm like, did you read this, or did you look into it? Or did you think about like the fact that it, like Tina said, this is from 2016 and how it could negatively impact the people you're sharing it with? Like I saw, there was an article going around, this is a while ago. It was a little girl that had been, she was missing or something. And I have, you know, family that'll just share it. And then come to find out that girl was dead already.
Right.
Or, you know, they found out she was, and this is really sad and heavy, but like, you have to be cognizant about the things that you're sharing, because it's dangerous, honestly. But yeah, for me personally, I know I'm 100% in control of what I'm consuming, but I don't think most people are.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on.
I don't think he was
said
talking
you're 100%. You said you're 100% in like certain that you're in control of what you're consuming. But a moment ago, you told me that you allow Facebook to curate your news feed. So you're not. You're not. Mark Zuckerberg is in control of what you're consuming. And that's the point that I'm getting. If you are not curating your news feed,
okay,
first of all, taking in things from
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying,
Casey, I love that you still say that. You've been saying that since we were 20. First of all, calm down.
But what I'm saying is my newsfeed, social media wise, perhaps it's the algorithm, you know, Mark Zuckerberg has his hands in what I'm seeing, but I also have like my Apple News that I curate, like all the different articles that show up or that I get alerts for. You know, first of all, the point is I'm not just consuming my news from social media. And
gotcha. MSN.com, that's where you get
out of my face. Don't talk to me.
Isaac, you on a roll. If anybody hadn't listened to the podcast, Casey was finna cut you. But
might still.
Yeah, he's been waiting on it. I'm gonna cut it.
But I wouldn't say that I am 100%. I don't want to say that I'm 100%, only because I've had viewpoints waver after a bit of extensive research. Viewpoints that I've had over the course of a decade or more.
What type of topics?
It could be religious. It could be just in terms of how we would look at roles, gender roles, and things of that nature. It's a lot of different things that initially, like,
so
coming
like
into adulthood, I had different. Yeah, a lot of that stuff has shifted, and initially, you couldn't tell me that I was wrong about any of that stuff.
Do you mind giving an example?
Very stubborn. The one example that I would give, I'm a little fearful of because my family is watching it. But I'll say this much: I was a part of one of the sects of the Israelites. I wasn't what would be considered a quote unquote hotep. Because what I do believe is what they practice in a lot of different ways is basically Christianity. That's all it is. However, there were things I'd been taught, and I clung to it. Like, oh, this, you can't tell me there's anything other than that. And after doing some research on my own, and then just critically thinking on my own, it kind of shifted. It really shifted, and I was thinking that stuff for a long time, very long time.
But after 10 years, that just keeps growing, right? Like, I think none of us should be the exact same person we were.
Who determines that it's growth? Because maybe that can be some form of regression. If it's a negative thing, then if what I was practicing at this particular point was something very positive, you know, I think it all depends on the person's viewpoints on it. Well, it may be growth in your eyes. You know, someone else might be like, dude, what's wrong with you? I had a friend of mine. I had a friend of mine that, because I'm in more of a spiritual state now. I don't really cling to any set of beliefs per se. I consider them all, right? But I had a friend of mine that I told that a friend that I've been cool with since 7th grade, and she was just like, that's not you. I've never known you to not be in some church somewhere or, heavy into religion. And it shocked her, and it had me thinking like, is it not me or? Mm-hmm.
I think something Amanda Seales said that I found valuable was you got to be careful what you take in on social media and just around you, because people who don't know you will try to convince you of who you are and you actually know yourself. And I think that's one of those instances where someone who's around you, like you're evolving beyond this frame of thinking in a positive way. Shedding patriarchal views is positive. So for someone to sit there and be like, I've never known you to be this person. Okay, bitch, this is me now. Are you with it or not?
Also, religion is not a church, right? Like it's about reading the scripture and learning. So you could still be taking in those learnings outside of a church, right? So I think, again, as you said, like it can be in like depending on the case for every individual, but I do think there is growth on, learning, some of the things that you've done in your past that are toxic, or just, you have a different viewpoint from what you had like 10 years ago. Like, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. There was one point, a girl that I dated, I imposed all of these outlandish beliefs. Now, this wasn't necessarily from what I had been learning from the church that I began to attend. This was actually before that church. But I had this mindset that, you shouldn't get tattoos, piercings, you shouldn't be changing the color of your hair and all of this type of stuff. And I imposed that on a girl that I was dating back when I was like 20. And I mean, to the extent that I would tell her, like, if you did this, I'm breaking up with you. And she did. She stuck with me for a little while.
She opted in. She opted in. I mean, I don't know. I remember my ex used to be like, if you wear hoop earrings, I'm not going to date you. I'm like, all right, I wear hoop earrings and we still dated, so.
But also the audacity of a fucking 20-year-old telling anybody anything. Like, I'm sorry, my dude, you can't even partake in this bottle. So what you're not about to do is tell me I can't color my hair. Get into this ombre, get into these highlights. Like, what? That was a boring ass relationship. What did y'all even do?
That's something. I mean, there were so many things that I wouldn't do. That's the thing. And I can't say that it was necessarily boring, because over a period of time, I started to open up a bit more.
Is that when you broke up with her?
Actually, it was. That's the crazy thing.
Answer, she know him.
But
Listen,
no, I didn't want to go to clubs. I wasn't someone that would drink, smoke, anything.
Boring. And then you saw the light and you dumped her.
So it's fine.
I be drinking.
Daniel, so have you ever, real quick, guys, because Dan, you've investigated a lot of different things. Like, have you ever, interact with the Flat Earth Society at all? Or
no. Isn't there a rapper who believes in that? The Atlanta dude.
Yeah, B.O.B.
Really? No.
He's still making music.
It's unfortunate because I was a big fan of his, and
I was too.
I mean,
for a period, we all. I mean, he had hits. Okay, so now let's step outside of the bubble. Is being open-minded a virtue? How do y'all feel about that? Do you think ultimately, like, that being open-minded is seen as a strength, or do you think that it can be limiting?
Being open-minded is a strength. Being open to taking in the world around you and opposing viewpoints is never going to be a negative. I think when you're closed-minded and closed off to even hearing something outside of what you believe to be true, that's when you hear of negative things coming about. But being open, I think you have to be careful of what you allow to sway your opinion on things. Like, you need to be grounded and stand for something and have values. But being open-minded is never going to steer you the wrong way. What's the wrong way? What's so bad about taking in more of the world? When we look at the problems in the world right now, is it stemming from being too open, or does it stem from being too closed off?
I think people can also hear a different point of view, but not be open-minded. And I think we need to like kind of talk about like what those differences are, right? Like, because you can still like be open to being like, okay, like I hear the conservative point of view, but it's still fuck y'all all day, like.
But being open to even hear the point of view is being open. There's people who are not going to even hear it on both extremes. And so I'm saying if you're open-minded, you're open and entertaining the possibility of making space for something different.
You want to know who one of the most open-minded people I know is? Kristen. I'm gonna make her chime in. But yeah, no, every time she and I will get into heated debates about a variation of different things. And we respect each other enough to like recognize that we may not always agree on it, but then we also learn a lot from each other too. So
open-minded is cool. Basically, it allows you to establish perspectives, but as was said earlier in the conversation, you have to be willing to dig into the weeds as well, you know, to fact check and to make certain that, you know, what you're believing in is actually has some legitimacy to it. So, but I think being open-minded allows you to put things having a somewhat of an objective view, even though we're still have subjective views in many different ways.
Yeah.
I also think at the end of the day, you know, if you're not going to be open-minded, if you don't agree with somebody, you can agree to disagree. You know, that's the mature thing to do. Agree to disagree. You know, just understand that there's nobody in this world that, you know, you're not going to put two people together or a group of people together and everybody agrees on everything. And if you have people around you that agree with everything that you say, you're around the wrong people.
So, Kristen, do you think that being open, okay, which one do you think makes you more susceptible to being manipulated, being open-minded or being closed-minded?
Being closed-minded. Because ignorance, you know, so ignorance will put you in a bad position. If you're not aware and open to possibilities and open to thoughts outside of your confines and your bubbles, yeah, I think you're more susceptible in that arena.
Kristen, are there things that you refuse to agree to disagree on?
What's that?
Are there things or topics or, you know, subject matter that you refuse to just agree to disagree with somebody on?
Yep. Racism, sexism, classism, all the isms.
I think that's really important to say, and I'm happy you said that, because I think a lot of times right now in this political climate that we're currently in, a lot of the things people want you to agree to disagree on are the isms, as you said.
Yep.
And I think that there's something to be said about drawing a line on the humanity of people.
Yes.
And there's certain topics that we can't agree to disagree on on the humanity of people's experiences. Right.
Absolutely, Aisha. Totally.
So Casey asked a question in one of the past podcasts where she said, and I'm gonna probably butcher it, Casey, you can chime in and correct it, but it has something to do with the fact that conservatives seem to always keep winning, right? And the question was something basically like, if Democrats were more like conservatives, would they win more, right? And so conservatives have a very narrow focus, you know what I'm saying? And it allows them to accomplish shit, right? Because they're not all over the place, right? With liberals, we got like 20 different things under this one umbrella. And how do you appeal to 1,000 different groups? You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, we have to pick something and move forward. A good friend of mine once told me that the root word of decision is scission, which means to cut. It means in order to move forward, you actually have to cut off all of these other options so that you can accomplish something, right? So if I'm so open-minded, if I'm just so like, hey, I'm just willy-nilly, I don't accomplish anything, right? Like that's like the jack of all trades and the master of none. So like, how do you all find resolution with that? Because at some point, a decision has to be made, which means I have to select, right? Like even when it comes to a wife, I have to select one person, right? I mean, unless you believe in
Isaac, you acting like dudes even do that much. They'll select one person and then have 10 others. Like, please don't go. That example, I don't even know why I'm acting triggered right now, but like that example just triggered me.
You can have 2 husbands. Listen,
you can have 5.
I mean, maybe I will.
Depending on the culture. But to answer Isaac's question, my comments anyway, is that conservatives, their attitude is winning by any means necessary. They may all have differing opinions, but they come out of the room with one voice. Whereas, in my opinion, the liberals or Democrats, you know, they are trying to take the high road. And there's times in which you have to just get into the mud, you know, and I think they have the conservative, what has impressed me about them, they have a spin on everything. anything negative you could throw at them, they spin it in a positive way. Whereas Democrats, when a number of issues went down concerning improprieties, they would resign the office. I mean, conservatives are not going to do any of that.
No, and
I think for conservatives too, I think the biggest thing is like they focus on a particular base and they don't ease up off of that base. You know,
they don't waver.
Yeah, they don't waver at all, even though like, you know, that base are not, you know, they're not really voting in their best interest. You know, they're just, you know, there's been so much talk to them that they feel like, oh yeah, these people represent me. They're really making sure that like all the laws and things that are being passed are really like, you know, going to benefit me, even though that's not the case.
Yeah, when it comes to winning and losing, I think that like, first and foremost, I know we're talking about conservatives and liberals, but wins and losses, I just equate to literally winning and losing. So in the space of like when I'm trying to win, yes, I'm focused. I have a plan. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z to get whatever the prize is, whether that is a medal, whether it's money, whether it's a new job, whether it's a relationship, whatever. I certainly think that you should be focused. But when you talk about being open-minded, I kind of wanted to throw out this idea of, yeah, do I think that being open-minded is good? For sure. But I think I lean more towards like, is it being open-minded or is it like being flexible? If you have your door wide open, you leave yourself susceptible to anybody coming in. Whereas if you're flexible, it's like, okay, well, I will stretch myself and I will stretch my mind, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to stay in that space. Like I can stretch, but then I can snap back to my foundation that I've like succeeded and built upon.
I think that's semantics though at that point. Like you're still going to be grounded and rooted in like having a foundation of what you believe to be true while being able to like pivot and hear other people and have and be able to grow and expand yourself as you get better information.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I just look at it as like, okay, well, are we staying static or are we being dynamic? And again, yeah, I mean, to your point, it could just be play on words or whatever.
So this is a kind of a abstract idea, but some people can hold on so tightly to the idea that they are open-minded that they will turn around and do things that aren't core to them. So they'll start to agree to things that are not technically okay. So if we want to talk about like sexual things, you know, someone may be like, you know, will you try this? And they know that they never want to do that. Either it's a threesome or
right.
Is my family watching anal? Things like that.
Why do you
my thing is like I just don't want like people to get into this space where like you so open to the point where like just you're being consumed by everything. You don't know.
People are only going to judge you that way if you don't clearly by your actions display that you stand for something. Right. People, you can be open to things in terms of hearing people and giving people space to take in other opinions. But I only think people are going to call into question your behavior and if you are wishy-washy and if you go whichever way the wind blows. Totally. And I think that we got to stop thinking that open-mindedness means that you're not rooted in something and standing.
No, and I agree with that. But I also dealing with the space where I talk to people on a daily basis, you be surprised. I'd be like, wow. All right.
A lot of people don't stand for anything. People flip-flop so fucking much. Yeah. And they switch it up based on what benefits them at the moment.
I say your idea of flip-flopping could just be I heard another side of something and it makes sense to me. And
no, that's growth, Casey. Flip-flopping means that you go back and forth all the time depending on your environment.
But it doesn't mean that the thing that they now agree with is good. So it doesn't mean that it's growth. It could just be like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
I need a real life example maybe that you've experienced to make it make sense to me, because right now it seems like wishy-washy.
I don't have the answers.
And I guess that's where I struggle. I struggle with hypotheticals in some instances because I like to know the real shit that all of us are experiencing, because that helps me like flesh it out a bit, versus we can come up with hypotheticals all day, but like, what are we actually doing? Are we really doing this? Because maybe it is wishy-washy. If none of us can come up with an example of it in practice.
Well,
it's like the Flat Earth Society, right? Flat Earth Society. Right. No, you think about it, like people, these guys will show them legit things where they'll say the Earth is flat, right? How do we know the Earth is round? We've never been to space, right? Like, we don't really know. So if someone sets a bunch of legit information in front of you, they could change your mind if you're open-minded, right? And then you go around thinking the Earth is flat. But then someone shows you Google Earth, or they're like, well, the Flat Earth Society already debunked that. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? They could keep coming with evidence. But
Omar, are you a Black Trump supporter? Because you could let us know what it's like to live on that side of life.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Could we potentially flirt with the idea of like, all right, you talk about relationships, and I'm just talking out loud here. I'm trying to give you a point, but for the person who is blind, let's say, yeah, you are open-minded and you're open to the idea of like, okay, this is cool. Like, he's a nice guy. He has a job. He's able to do X, Y, and Z, but he can't see. And in the terms of like being in a relationship with him, you just may not want to be in that type of situation. You're open-minded, but you still made a decision to be like, all right, well, that just ain't really what I'm trying to deal with.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life.
Knowing what struggle you can do, or like what's for you. Like, maybe I don't want to be with someone who has kids, because I know that that's literally something that is not something I can take on. But I don't judge someone for having children, especially as we get older and people have lived lives.
Right.
I don't want to.
But kids are. I mean, I would consider that in like a bucket of like, I understand that people choose to not have kids, but
I think, Lex, to your point, I think what you're saying is like, okay, so for me, I initially would have been like, I don't think I could be with someone who is blind, because I feel like I can't I don't want to take on the role of helping to take care of them. And but then as I learn more about like how you function on your own and how your girlfriend doesn't really have to be involved in a lot of that stuff, I thought more about it. Like, man, that's actually not as difficult as I thought it would be.
And some people would step into that space and be like, all right, cool. Like, all right, like, he doing his thing. And they're stretching themselves, but then they snap back and be like, you know what? I'm trying to get somebody who can see. Like, that's what I
but honestly though, and I'm not even like, well, I'm mildly being facetious, but not really. I could even see some people seeing some benefit in it. Like, you know what? Because I've been tired of getting up and having to put on all this goddamn makeup all day.
Hey,
I'm tired of having to do all this extra shit.
I totally
like, babe, put on some
me. I agree with you. But when you talk about when we circle back to this idea of social media is, we talk about IG specifically, that is a visual platform. People are, all right, man, like, I got 500 likes. I'm trying to get 600 likes, 700 likes, whatever. You got the Instagram baddies or whatever phrase that you want to use. Like, people, like, we live in a visual space. So like people, they grasp onto that. And I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with any of that, but I just understand that is the, that's what people tend to migrate towards, even though I feel like I know there are tons of other ways that I can display to my girl how she is beautiful. Let me run down the list. But all I'm saying is that is the, where we live right now, the space where we are, people just gravitate towards like, all right.
Well, Lex, I got to let you know, Kiana on the Facebook chat just said that, she goes, quote, "That blind dude might be the business in bed though."
First of all,
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Big Mama watching this. Big Mama watching this.
I just have to say, young lady, that blind dude, his girlfriend is one of my best friends. So fall back. But thank you.
Okay, Kristen, she is being Like,
she's just saying,
chill.
like, open up your possibilities. I get what she was saying.
That's why Lex is being careful because Kristen's in the room. Lex is like, let me think about this. One
Lex
second.
just disappeared after the
Yeah,
comment.
I gotta be very cognizant.
Like,
of
do you
words
have
that I
any
use.
single blind friends?
There you go. There you go.
Woo,
Listen,
Kristen's over here like, what are you about to say though?
I cannot. So mild pivot, but not a big pivot. One announcement. Well, two announcements. So for everybody that's tuned in, and for everybody that'll watch later, we are going to have a special Halloween edition of the Tequila Tales. Okay, we actually just posted the event last night. It is called The Representative. Let Your Freak Flag Fly. Okay, so this is a collaborative event. It's going to be a little different from the ones that we've done in the past. We're actually going to have on costumes. So I know you guys are like, costumes. Yeah, we're going to have on costumes, right? So think about that for a moment. Your representative. What's your representative? We've always talked about how in dating, a lot of times your representative is who you show first, but the representative can be several different things. You can be Captain Save 'em. Right. And so I thought it would be funny, or we thought it would be funny to have individuals dress up as their representative, or as Aisha even alluded to during our conversations, everybody has specific kinks, right? Things that turn them on or things that they like. And so everybody is going to be in character, right? We'll obviously release more details, as it continues to develop. We'll even share a little bit more in a moment, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a DJ to be announced. And I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar right now, because there's going to be costumes, there's going to be prizes, there's going to be giveaways, and it's like I said, the vibe is going to be the same substantive conversation, but it's just going to be a little elevated from what it is that we've generally done. So I wanted to put that on everybody's radar now that the event is actually live. So you can go ahead and you can follow the event, or say that you're interested in the whole nine. So I want to put that out there. Second thing I wanted to share is that we have recently created a Facebook group called The Conversation. Right now, we should have created a Facebook group like years ago. Facebook was trying to get me to create one at least 4 or 5 years ago, but like it takes a lot of effort to manage and maintain a group, especially when our shows were physical. You go into that virtual space. I was a little scared because I was like, it can get very ratchet very fast. But I have actually been incredibly impressed with how entertaining this group has been thus far, right? So, it's only a couple of weeks old, but it's not only incredibly engaging, but it's very humorous, very hilarious, and it's kept me on Facebook way longer than I typically expect to be, right? So it's open for everyone, so definitely feel free to log in, and just know that it's got the same vibe as Tequila Tales, the live show, the virtuals, everything we do. So if you like our vibe, you'll definitely love The Conversation. But someone posted something in the conversation earlier this week, and they posed the following question. So Casey, if you'll go ahead and share the meme, and we will, because I just want to get everybody's view on I'm sorry.
I'm asking if everybody can see it.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, you guys can see it?
Yeah.
Just make sure you
So it says, at what point do you get comfortable enough to hand your unlocked phone to your partner without feeling, they've got emojis, but basically some kind of way, right?
When you stop cheating.
You shouldn't be in a relationship if you're cheating.
Everybody cheat.
Oh my
God. They don't.
So
why do people break up?
You say what?
Why do people break up if no one cheats?
Incompatibility.
People break up because they want to cheat.
Right. So I don't. Okay. To answer the question, this is kind of what I said in the group. Like, I don't feel the need to like share my phone or look into my man's phone. But I don't really have a lot to hide. So I'm not concerned if I need him to answer the phone, like, can you pick it up or can you put in the MapQuest if I'm driving or look at a text or whatever.
MapQuest?
I'm sorry.
You're aging yourself, Casey.
You still printing out your directions? That's what you doing?
Casey, do you keep your milk in the Frigidaire? I'm just curious to know. Like,
I will say, if you are
gonna leave my girl alone,
MapQuest is great. Like multiple trips, MapQuest is still great. So it is.
Yes, you know what? I don't need this anyway.
Whatever.
So that is one area where I wouldn't care if my man I gave him my phone to do so. But I do think that like our phones are not just for text messages and all that. Like they are little mini computers. So I put notes, or sometimes me and my girlfriends are sharing things about one another that are private or whatever. So it's not even just about like infidelity and stuff like that. I just think, what are we doing this for? Like I don't need to go into your phone. If I have a feeling that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, I don't need to go through your phone to figure it out. Like I'll let it go.
If we got to move to the fact that like you searching my phone, and in my head, I feel like it's already on the lower end. Like you've already been displaying certain things that okay, cool. I just need to see your phone to confirm everything that I've been seeing within your behavior.
But can we be honest? A lot of people will confirm what they're already feeling and not do shit with it anyway. So it's like, why do you really want to make yourself mad if you don't plan on leaving?
Right.
I've always had the passcode of my partner's phone and vice versa, and
I know you do
with it. So I mean, it's like I don't have anything to hide, and like obviously, like you have like private conversations with their girlfriends or friends or what have you. But usually people end up sharing those conversations with their partners on the low, anyways. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I've had times where like, when me and my ex were together, like he was looking through my phone and I'd look through his phone too, but it wasn't to find something. It was like, oh, I'm upstairs and my phone is downstairs. So I have your phone and I'm like,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I'm not a jealous person. Like I don't do any of those things. Like if I have an inkling that somebody's cheating on me.
But like we don't even have passcodes. On my phone, it's fingerprint, and on my husband's phone, it's by the eyes. So I've definitely held his phone up to his face before and been like this. And when I've been like sleeping before, and he's taken my finger and opened up my phone, but only so he could set my alarm. Like,
do people like? Is it strictly just because we talk about phones all of the time, but for individuals who still continue to journal, or let's say you have your personal computer or whatnot, are people having that same type of energy to look at a journal or a computer?
Yep. Yeah, I went through that personally. I'm a writer and poet, and someone that I was dealing with in the past just never thought to ask me what I was writing about or ask to hear any poetry. Instead, they took it upon themselves to read it and then went on to form their own opinion of what it was that I was writing about or the message.
I just saw that episode of Girlfriends with Lynn.
They got mad about it. I have a poem about the way that it starts off is I'm perfection. And after reading this piece, this person goes on to talk to other people and myself, saying that, oh, so you just think you perfect and blah, blah, blah. And it's really not that if you got some type of common sense, but hey.
I mean, so like, is it the same way with, I mean, we talk about social media. Is it something where people have passwords to your social media as well and they peruse that? Like,
so I was in a
7-year nowadays. So it's like if somebody wanted to go, like if somebody's in your phone, they're going to be able to have access to your Instagram, your Twitter, all of that stuff. But again, it's like, it depends what kind of like relationship you're having, what kind of conversations you're having. Usually if somebody's looking at your phone, there's obviously some kind of trust issues that they need to sort out for themselves.
Right.
But
I don't agree with that at all. I was in a relationship for 7 years. Prior to that, I was married, and we had each other's passcodes. We had each other's everything, you know, so you have full access to my phone. To me, I think a lot of people have never been in a very trusting and open relationship, and they've low-key been on some bullshit. Because if you have ever been in an extremely healthy relationship, you'll have no qualms. It won't even be an issue. This topic won't even be a problem. It's just a matter of—
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't even come up. I don't even think to ask for his password because I don't even think to be in his phone. Like, I don't even need to.
So here's the thing for me with my relationships, right? If, let's say, I think one of you used the example of the phone being downstairs and someone else's phone being upstairs, right? It's as if you have a house phone. If it's right there and it's accessible and you know you want to call your mom real quick and your mom's number is in this phone, that's the phone that I'm picking up. You know, it's not really a conscious thought of, oh, wait, it's his phone, so I have to be extra careful because I don't want to pick it up because I don't want him to think that I'm looking through it. It's not like that, you know?
I mean, I feel what you're saying, you know, Kristen.
I'm gonna need you to go get your fucking phone and call your mom, please.
Man, thank you.
I
can relate to what Kristen's talking about. I can personally relate to what Kristen's talking about.
So I want to, and don't take any offense to this, anybody, but anybody who has an opposing opinion of that, have you ever been married? And if you have, then how long have you been married?
I've been divorced and I'm remarried. I think when it comes to it, I don't live in an estate. Your phone is within 20 steps. Like, I just think, like, why do you need to call from my phone? So I agree with you, Kristen, in the sense of not having anything to hide. There's total access and trust, and I'm in a very healthy situation. But I'm more like, what the fuck you need my phone for? I'm using it.
So this is going to be one of those agree to disagree situations, because at the end of the day, I think it's everybody's personal preference, you know. So whatever is healthy for your relationship. So for me and mine, it was a matter of, I don't care. You can see my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, any of that stuff. I didn't care.
What about banking password? What about banking password?
The same as using your phone.
That too. We had.
You guys share that too.
If you share an account, I mean,
yes, we did, because we shared an account.
But what about hold on. What about an individual account? I'm the banker. I want to know. Like,
I had an individual account and we had a joint account.
And did he have access to your individual account?
He did. He never went into it, but he knew this. It was the same username and password as my other stuff. So he could have, if he wanted to.
Same deal for me as well.
Can I ask Kristen and Tina a question?
Yes.
I agree that whatever works for people, do whatever works for y'all. But how did you have those initial conversations to establish that there is nothing off limits? And also, did you go into those relationships because of prior experiences with people where there was a lack of transparency or trust, where you were like, okay, I'm gonna change my whole shit up for this new situation because of something that happened before?
I've always been super trustworthy. Like, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, it's because I like trust them. So there wasn't any like past issues where I've like reverted to something new. Like, that's just always been like kind of my focus. And I think the way that we got into it is like, we had conversations about how we're paying bills, how we're saving money together and individually, and like, you know, having access, like, what if something happens to one of us? Like, all of these things were areas where we had a conversation about very early on about how we're going to approach things.
I would say ditto. I didn't have any prior transgressions or anything crazy that happened where I'm like, oh, I don't trust, so now I have to do this thing that makes me feel better about stuff. I've always been a person that if I'm getting in that serious of a relationship with you, I've vetted you, I feel comfortable with you. You can have the keys to the castle at the end of the day, because what's the point in being in a union like that if you're going to feel like you can't share everything with the person?
And
it's not necessary for everybody.
I gotta tap in. Let me tap in.
Were y'all with men who had money though? Because everybody can't manage money.
No.
Yeah, my ex-husband played in the NFL, so I would say he had some money.
Girl, just because he's in the NFL doesn't mean he can manage money. We see the
ESPN.
So
we had somebody to manage the money too. So I'm just speaking for myself. He was good, you know. So I don't know if that, you know.
So you trusted his financial management and that you were with someone who could have access to your bank account because he could manage a dollar. Like some people are with people.
And it was me. It was me that he needed to watch out for with my spending ass. Like it was me being accountable for, hey, yeah, you might want to look because I got a shopping problem. So
Kristen, do you think that there are times, and you know what? Listen, and I don't, because when it was posed in the Facebook group, it actually surprised me to see everybody's reactions, right? And I'll go into that in a moment, but like, I don't even want you to feel like that, everybody's like ganging up on you.
No,
I'm fascinated.
I don't care about that.
Right.
I get Kristen's back. I get Kristen's back.
Wait a minute. Stop it.
I agree with Kristen. Like, I agree. I get her back.
I'm fascinated by how, staunchly you've expressed your views. And I guess what I'm curious about is, one of the things that's fascinating to me is, so, I'm not 100% certain, the years that you were married, but one thing that I've seen as it relates to social media and technology is things have dramatically changed even since 2016, right? And so it feels like, because there was a point where I used to keep my phone unlocked, like as a bravado thing, right? When I was dating or even in a relationship, I would take the phone out, boom, I would put it like, even like, I've always been someone that keeps my stuff out in the open. Like, and I think iPhone, I don't know if I can take the lock off, but there used to be a point where like BlackBerry and Androids, you could not unlock your phone. I mean, you could unlock your phone. You could make it to where you could just use this, right? Back in the day, I used to just put it down because it was kind of like not a dare, but it was like look through it all you want to. I don't care. Like anything that you see now, I had another rule too. You can look through it. However, I'm not in a space where I'm about to, wait a minute. No, I'm dead ass. I'm not in a space where I feel like explaining everything that you see, right? Because the thing is you might
what are you explaining though?
And no, but this is what I'm getting at, right? Because this is what I'm about to ask her, right? That there are times where you may see an exchange with someone.
Here we go, y'all.
Well, who is she? Oh, well, why were y'all talking about that and the whole nine? And I know I can explain this.
You can explain anything. You're a litigator. You're a lawyer.
Stop it. No, the point that I'm getting at is my thing is when we talk about trust, right? When we talk about trust, it's like you have the access, but if you feel the need, I think one of you guys said that earlier, like if you feel the need to grab the phone, that's where the problem starts, right? Because you can ask me anything and I'll give you the 100% truth.
Yo, that's where the problem ends.
See, but that's the problem. That's the thing.
That's where the problem ends.
That is the thing right there. Just because we had access doesn't mean that we abused the privilege.
Right.
I rarely picked up his phone. He rarely picked up mine. But the fact of the matter is we had access to everything. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. When we first granted one another access, I was all looking through that thing. I'm on everything. I'm looking at the comments, the DMs, you name it. I'm in that joint, right? As
Kristen,
was
I had your back at first, Kristen. I had your back.
But is it like, but were you, but Kristen,
Omar, you never really had my back. So we're going to first address that. Secondly, to that point, after a while, it just became a matter of, I trust this person and I don't need to look in their phone. But if I want to, it's there for me to look at, and not to say that we didn't run across any problems. Of course you do. The rando from 10 years ago that decided to DM you and ask if you're still in a relationship and, oh my God, I miss you and all this stuff, that opens up a whole can of worms. But
Go ahead.
If somebody did message me, I would say, I would be proactive and be like, oh yeah, this
just address it.
Mess with, he was, and I was like, nah, whatever.
Mm-hmm. But does it change?
I have verbal vomit with my spouse. Like, honestly, I am so just I'm transparent, probably to a fault. I'm going to tell you everything. I really don't have much to hide from you. I mean, of course, there are things that I keep close to the chest, but overall, I'm going to tell you whatever anyway. So I don't really have anything to hide.
But is it the fact that, like, so you were with an athlete? Is it the fact that he was an athlete that you wanted to have the access to all of these things? Because there is a narrative that because this person is in the NFL, NBA, MLB, et cetera, whatever, that, okay, I need, or is it because, like, would you have that type of perspective towards any person that you're in a relationship with?
Absolutely. Okay. Because now, to be clear, Lex, no shade to athletes. You guys are awesome. You're demigods at the end of the day. You have this strength and this, fortitude that a lot of regular people don't have. But I don't care who you are, how much money you have, what your job is. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to whomever I decide to be in a relationship with. You're going to get treated like the 9-to-5 dude. So that means that when you come at me sideways, like the 9-to-5 dude does, you're going to get the same reaction, same respect all across the board.
Okay.
I have a question.
Because sometimes, like, I hear people talk about that. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question to Young Jay and to Robert? Because I just think it's funny, because to me, and this is being like judgmental, but y'all look like you've never left a phone unlocked in any room ever.
2 of them. You can have access to anyone.
That's shade.
But that sounds real good, but we need a receipt. Like, do you have anyone you can bring on camera? Because you just look like you have never left a phone unlocked.
She said
he has 2 phones though. He left the one phone that you can look at.
No, even when I go out on
Why do you have 2 phones?
I have 2 phones.
Girl, I'm not talking to you.
Go ahead, Jay.
One for business, one for personal use.
I want you to leave that one in the room.
No, actually, when like I say, even if I go to the restroom while on a date, they'll be together like this, but I will leave them there. So if you want to grab it, you can go for it.
You can play that game if you want to.
You have your card on your phone? Do you have like your car payments, like not your like Apple Pay or something on your phone? Because I feel like you shouldn't be doing that if you do.
Nah. I mean, no Apple Pay.
Okay.
All cards are in the wallet.
You don't have anything on your phone where a person could like move funds from.
No, not at all.
Okay.
You have to actually log into everything.
Okay.
What about you, Robert?
Those are the only things that have passcodes on it.
Asia, I don't know why you coming at me like that. You know how I am. Everything about me is open. I keep the phone out in the car. Messages pop up. I disguise a lot of my phones. I put different names. Like if it's a woman, I put on there do not answer.
Everything's open, but I disguise a lot of my shit.
This is a totally.
I disguise like I might know you as a good friend. I put on there do not answer call. So if it pops up in my car, friend will look at it, or woman be like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's somebody I don't even talk to no more. And they still call me.
This is a total.
Come up.
No.
I change everything. I don't use my real name.
All the sketchy.
I
don't know you, Robert, but these are signs of fuckboy. Like.
I don't believe in letting everybody know everything. But I tell everybody, if I'm out with a woman, if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you. So don't think I'm lying to you or forget anything. You have to ask me, and then I'm gonna tell you. I don't volunteer any information.
How do you
I don't want you to come back later.
Somebody
you said
if
this.
You don't volunteer anything.
What'd you say, Aisha?
If you don't volunteer information, how do you navigate vulnerability and organically getting to know somebody if it's more of like an interview? They have to ask you for you to tell them.
It's like if I sit down, we go out and we start talking, that's just basic. You just getting to know someone. But if you ask me something real personal, I'm gonna give you an answer. I just don't want you to come back later, 2 months later. Well, you told me this. Like, listen, don't take me back 2-3 months later on something I said.
Like, stop bringing up
ask me directly.
Stop bringing up old shit.
Right, just ask me directly as we go along, and
Girl, me. You're living in the past.
Right, and I don't do relationships anyway right now. I do open relationships.
Okay.
You would hate me. Have you ever dated a Cancer? Because we live in the past. I'd be like, 20 days ago. That's current.
Oh my goodness.
Every woman lives in it.
I'm just trying to wait a minute. I'm just trying to.
He said, wait, say it again, Young Jay. Say it again.
Every woman lives in the past.
Wow.
Like
That's
men
so
don't
funny.
live in the past.
Kettle.
Men
Yeah,
live in their childhood.
wow,
They'll be
pot
like,
kettle
that girl
black.
was
Y'all
telling me
still be
everything.
heard
Yo, that's
about the
called-
woman that broke your heart in high school and junior high. Let's not go there.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's all it is. They all it
Or
takes a man one
the
woman
woman
to
that
break
let
their
you
little
take them
fragile
on a
heart.
vacation and then told you talking about all that sex stuff. You know what I'm saying? Only to...
Listen, if he wasn't being a creep, maybe he would have got some ass. But
whatever. Whatever. We can talk about that later. Now, inside of this post, right? Because when the post was made, one member of the group by the name of Henry said, and I quote, a lot of men follow these IG models, and who wants their woman to see claps ass cheeks just went live, right? So that was funny. Tina responded, but y'all can watch the live together, to make y'all closer. And his response was, how do you say? Some women are not ready to have that conversation. It sometimes leads to, oh, I'm not enough for you, or I can't believe you watch trash like that, right? So when we're talking about being open-minded, how do you all feel about your significant other? Like, I think one of you guys even said that earlier. Like, how do you all feel about your significant other potentially like looking at sultry people on Instagram? Like, does that bother you? Like, do you
Okay, so
endorse it?
the way that I look at it, honestly, it's a couple of factors that I have to consider. One, do they even know this person for real, for real? Do they hang out with this person? Do they see them on a regular basis? Two, a lot of us watch porn, okay? A lot of us watch porn. So in doing that, you seeing all sorts of what they say, claps ass cheek goes live. You see all of that on them sites, all of that. So who can really complain about what you're seeing on some? Yeah. Come on, it's not that serious.
So the thing too, like to that point, to Isaac's point, I think it doesn't bother me. I don't care if my man is looking at that kind of thing. Like, I think we all look at that sort of stuff. I think though, if everyone I found out he was looking at had all the things that I don't have, like I'd be like, man, like you have kind of a type and I'm not it. Like, what, I think I may question that. But I'm so oblivious to a lot of this stuff. I just be in my own little bubble. Like, I'm amazing. There's no way he doesn't like me. But, so I never really think about this stuff. But I think that could be a thing. If I found out all the IG chicks he loved were super
Kylie Jenner
tall,
type.
asses, they were dark skinned, whatever his thing was. And it's like, man, I'm not any of this. That may cause alarm. But for the most part.
I feel like people are allowed to have their fantasy people, right? Like that's what porn is, right? Like a lot of things that they do, like your average chick or your average dude can't do. Like they might not have all that girth or all that length or all that ass, right? Like, so I feel like it's a fantasy.
I think it's important to create a healthy situation with your partner where just from jump, you discuss with them the things that may cause them to cheat. So, if you're in a relationship with someone and let's say that they're tired of you not doing certain things and they've discussed it with you, right? If you create a healthy enough environment for them to have those conversations with you, maybe you can come to a compromise, whatever that may be, before you just, they feel like they need to go out and cheat or whatever it is. I think communication is key to everything, because some relationships don't have to end because someone has a preference for other things that you're not providing them. Maybe you allow them in a safe and healthy way to go get whatever they need and you come to an agreement. It's not for everybody, but
I agree with you in terms of having the conversation. But when you frame it in the way of let's talk about what may cause you to cheat, to me, I'm like, why? Absolutely fucking no. Like there's no conversation about what are the things that are going to make you cheat. I want to know what you need from a healthy, functional relationship so that we stay in tune with one another. But knowing what may make you cheat would make me feel as though I'm in a place of trying to keep you. Like you need to motherfucking opt in to be here. And if you don't want to be here,
yeah.
the door.
You're correct on that. So I think we're saying the same thing, but the words that I chose perhaps were not as descriptive as I would have liked for them to have been, but absolutely. So at the end of the day, all I'm saying is communicate with your partner, right? And so whatever you guys may come to, because regardless, you're going to come to a point where they're not going to like some shit that you're doing or not doing. You know, maybe you're not giving your partner head enough. I don't know, whatever the situation may be, you know, if your partner comes to you, because realistically people cheat for reasons. You have some people that are just, it's just in them. They like the thrill of it. They like the rush of it. It gets them off. Right. But you have other people who they're in relationships and they're happy, but they're just missing certain things and they don't feel comfortable enough to communicate those things that they're missing. So you have to create a comfortable environment for one another to discuss those things. So whether that be, hey, babe, I need you to do this more, you know, or I like you to do this in this manner, or, hey, I don't like when you do X, Y, and Z. How do we come to a resolve? How do we figure this out? And if you can't figure it out where, you know, because you have some women, they're lazy, or some men, you don't want to do it, you know? So what do you then do? Do you throw a whole relationship away that you may have been with this person for 12 years?
Girl, who cares? Throw that whole shit away. Go be with somebody who wants to be with you and who has the
I don't think that it
energy
means that the person doesn't want to be
you.
with you.
Yes, it does.
But if you're like sexually incompatible, then yes, like that's something you can't get over. Like, I mean, at a certain point, you have to know when to be like, all right, we tried. Like this, just I want to fuck all the time, and you want to fuck like one time a year. Like that's just not gonna work.
Right. So let me ask y'all this. Have you ever been in a situation, I'm going to say in your youth, because you ladies strike me as mature women who this wouldn't be a problem for you at this stage of the game, right? In your youth, did you ever find that you were in a relationship with someone where things were going great, but it was this one thing and you tossed the whole relationship away? But hindsight is 20/20. As you've gotten older, you realize perhaps I could have worked on this one thing. Perhaps we could have come to a compromise.
No, I kept trash ass dudes around who did everything wrong, and I kept them for the one thing. So I was reversed. Yeah. And it's like I was reversed. I focused on all the overlooked it. But also as we get older, our needs change. What I needed from a relationship at that time was different. And so I agree with you. I think that you need to know when to put in the towel. Also, I think it's worth knowing what is crucial to you as a person and what you need from your partner. And instead of being with someone who can't do that for you, why force them to be something that they're not? And I think a lot of times it's usually women who are in relationships with men, and men may make them feel some type of guilt around what they don't have. And so then go be with someone who has the shit that you want versus making someone else
ever going to have everything that you want. That's
fine, but there's people
you want is reasonable.
Yeah, I just feel like that is too close to expecting perfection out of one human being. Personally,
girl, you waste all your fucking time with somebody who doesn't have.
I just don't think that human beings were meant to be.
If you have a list, like you have to come to terms with your list. Like, is this realistic? Like, if what I'm asking for is unreasonable, then maybe I need to reevaluate my list. But if everything that you're asking for is reasonable, then that's fine.
Kathy has a list. How do you navigate that, Kathy?
You know what?
Put on blast. Kathy got a list. You know
she does. She should. She's a fucking catch.
You know what? Here's the thing. There's things that are non-negotiable, right? I'm kind of in the same camp as Aisha and Tina Marie, where I'm just like, you know what? Like, there's certain things that like you like. If somebody has this is making me think of the Andrew Gillum and his wife thing, right? Like, okay, you know, this man, it's one thing to be like, I'm bisexual, but you know, I choose you. And another thing to be like, I'm bisexual and I still want to sleep with men. And she's okay with that, but maybe somebody else is like, oh no, that doesn't work for me. So for me, I always have I do have a list, but I also have my things where I'm like, you know what, is this like Aisha was saying, I like men with hair, right? I do, but whatever. But like I said, I was engaged to somebody who was bald, and it was like, that's not a problem, because that to me is not I wasn't going around looking like, oh my gosh, this man has hair and I'm with somebody who doesn't have hair.
I feel like you're shaming us. I feel like you're shaming like half the men.
No. Here's the thing. I should have brought it up. Like for me, it's not a big deal. Everybody, because you know, it's not like he had a jacked up head. He had a very beautiful head. So I was like,
he was tall and he was chocolate, so he met the other criteria.
Correct. You know, he was physically attractive to me. It wasn't like, I remember there was one guy who he ended up being bald, but it was like a bald accountant thing where I was just like, no. But like everything else was there, so I was able. That wasn't, you know, the things that are non-negotiable for me are just like, hair is something I can negotiate on. There's certain things that I'm just like, you know, where I feel like, so I feel like I'm into fashion, right? And I've had men who I've dated who are like, I just feel like you dress up for attention and maybe you can like, so what I feel like is like, I've had men who I feel like they like me for my personality, but they are like, I like your personality. I feel like it's really nice, down to earth, but I'd like you to dress very down to earth. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not me. Like, yes, this is my personality, but this is also another side of me, and this is how I present myself. And if me dressing nicely,
sexy,
whatever, yeah, it's sexy. Like I think one guy was like, it brings attention, and I just don't like I'm like, so you liked me this way, but now that you have me, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you want me to tone it down for others. And so I was just like, that to me was like, you should be with somebody who's like me, but like dresses like the girl next door, because that's not me. Like, and for me, he was like, well, you can just change that. You can just stop dressing that way. And I'm like, no, I like the way I dress. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I know when to be appropriate. I know when to, I know when to stunt on hoes, you know, like I can pick and choose those things, but like you want me to always.
I think a lot of these things are things that you should figure out at the beginning of a relationship. So what I'm speaking about is more to the effect of, I'm 12 years into this, and me and this person have been rocking the long way. Like, we love one another, everything's good to go. But then, you know, one thing comes up. It's like, do you just throw the whole relationship away?
Kristen, after 12 years, maybe I have a question for you. What if you've grown apart?
Well, but see, that's a whole nother issue. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm being very specific with what I'm talking about here, guys. Like,
you're committed to staying with that person. You're not committed to yourself and what your needs are. That's what it sounds like. I'm not like accusing that, but it sounds like what the goal is for you is to be able to say that I'm staying with this person, or I'm committed to like being in this length of a relationship.
No, the goal is to be open-minded, and the goal is to be like, if
you're not evolving together,
and trust me when I say this goes the opposite way as well, right? So I can use me as an example, right? So obviously I'm not a person where what you're saying, I mean, I've been divorced, so that's not, you know, that can't be the case, because I will leave someone, you know, that's not even a thing. I'm not the person that's like, I'm going to stick with you no matter what. I'm gonna let you run me over. Like, that's not who I am. Anybody on this call that knows me personally knows that that's just not who I am, right? What I am saying, guys, is I think that this is part of the problem of the millennial Zoomer generation. It's that whole, everybody can just be chucked to the side and tossed off, because you know what? I'm going to find another person. You know,
may I comment?
Person does, and I'm ready to get rid of you.
May I comment?
Yes. I'll jump in real quick.
To Kristen's point earlier on, the question is, or the question begs, can you talk, right? So what I'm hearing now, there are certain folks who have interactions for a reason. Maybe it's a physical attraction or something like that, for a season. I think the topic earlier on in the week was talking about cuffing. Or is it for a long-term relationship? So if it's for a long-term relationship, can you hear me? There needs to be some sort of conversation. Need to be able to talk about certain things. If it's for a reason, you know, shade of skin, hair, whatever the deal is, that's just what it is. And when that plays out, it's done. If it's for a season because it's getting cold outside, you know, then we have to understand that. But the key is, can you communicate? Can you talk? I think that's the baseline. If that's not the case, then it's done from the beginning, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing. I think I'm not understanding Kristen, because for me, like kind of like what we said before, everybody hopefully is in a 12-year relationship. You understand who you're with. Of course, things are changing. So I guess I'd have to understand, like, what do you mean, like 12 years in, somebody's like, hey, you know what? I like cross-dressing, or kind of like, I feel like I'm in the wrong body, and I want to be able to do other things like that, because I'm like, what? Because here's the thing: most of the things that are going to happen are either going to be things that they weren't upfront about, or maybe things have changed. And to Aisha's point, if like you were into something initially, and 12 years later you become a different person, and that person is like, I'm not cool with that, then you've essentially grown apart, and maybe you guys aren't compatible. So I'm trying to understand, like, is there a specific example of what you're talking about that is the issue, is an issue that I could maybe understand?
Maybe not an issue per se, because I don't want to label it as an issue. I just think we all grow, right? We all should be anyway, because if you look up and 12 years later, you're with someone and you're still the same person and they're still the same person, therein lies a problem within itself, right? I look at my parents who've been together for, Lord, I don't know, for forever. You know, they've been together since before I was born. And I look at some of the things that they've gone through, and someone else may say, well, that's really unhealthy. You know, maybe your mom should have left at this point, or she should have, you know, she shouldn't have tolerated certain things, or vice versa. And I just feel like that is why you have such a high divorce rate, because people they don't have a stick-to-itiveness. They don't know when to set the ego aside and when to set the pride aside. Now, don't get me wrong. I will say that there are a lot of relationships that should have led to divorce, especially in our parents' generation, because they were in these relationships for the wrong reasons a lot of times, right? But you do have situations where you have to know when your ego and when your pride just needs to be set aside, and you need to understand that this is a fellow human being. This is a person who is evolving and changing, and whatever the situation may be, you have to give people grace, and you have to.
Sure, but you can give that person that from the beginning of the relationship. Someone may need that 6 months in, especially during COVID. Things have changed for everyone this year. So I agree with you in that sense. But 12 years in, I think you're already creating an environment, an established understanding that we're growing, evolving, checking in. But if you there's a lot of our elders who were in shit that they should have left, but they were not able to, or they didn't have resources, that they didn't even know they should leave, or they had an option to leave.
And everybody's entitled to have non-negotiables, right? Like, I don't have to stick around with a partner who is unfaithful. If that is my non-negotiable,
that makes a lot of sense. I think I want to kind of chime in and kind of add to what Kristen is saying, because I completely agree with her in the sense that, you know, and I think the bigger problem is the effective communication is there. Communication is there, but it's not effective. People are yelling at each other, and they're stubborn in their stances. They're not empathetic to the other person's needs. It's always me for the most part in this new kind of realm of dating. And that is what I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I would say that that's where Kristen is coming from. I've seen that personally. I've even been in those situations where, oh, well, that's what no, I don't care to know how you came to this decision. I don't care to know, you know, what you've gone through. I'm not dealing with that. And just boom, walk off.
I feel like people are far too dismissive nowadays.
Yeah, very dismissive. There is the term that people often use in these conversations is "you're crazy." And Dave Chappelle said this in an interview before, that crazy is often just you're dismissing a person for the reason that you don't understand it. You don't even try to understand it. You just you're crazy.
But like you look at Will and Jada. I'm sorry, y'all. Anybody who's been in a marriage for, you know, a number of years, they've gone through exactly what I'm describing. They've gone through something. Insert issue here, and they've worked through it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. It sounds to me like everybody else is kind of just so quick to just be like, you know what, one little thing and I'm out. You know, it's like that's not reality.
Hey, the thing is, like,
all the time.
Specific. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Lex. Finish.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, we see people that stay in horrible relationships all the time. So I think a lot of people might talk on social media.
But isn't horrible relative? Yeah, isn't horrible relative? Isn't horrible so what you may consider to be horrible? Let's look at Will and Jada and August Alsina, right? That may be horrible to us, but for them, with all the positive things that they have in their relationship, they're still together. Who knows how long that may last? But my point is, what you may view as horrible from the outside, you don't know what's going on in that person's relationship. So I could judge Will and Jada and say, damn, I would never stay in a situation like that. That's horrible. But I also don't know the beautiful side of their relationship that makes them stay together.
But Kristen, aren't you also judging? Wouldn't you also be judging people who decide I don't want to deal with that? And then you're saying that
I'm not judging them.
No, but what I'm saying is if you're making the statement that people in a certain generation tend to be too dismissive and throw things away, aren't you judging their boundary or what their line is for what they're not about to do?
No, I kind of think I'm stating a fact. I kind of think I'm stating a fact because if you look at it statistically, right, I think we all can agree that if you look at our parents' generation versus ours, simply because of the things that we're provided, technology, right? The whole premise of this discussion was social media, right? Our parents didn't have the privilege of being as dismissive as we are able to be. We have this, ready button. We can just we can swipe left, swipe right, do whatever we want to because we have more options. Options are more readily available for us.
I want to challenge Tina.
Honestly,
I want to challenge Tina a little bit. Not to say that you would be swayed in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, Casey.
I was just gonna say after you, I want to let Lex.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Lex.
Go ahead.
Tina mentioned something in regard to infidelity, and that is your absolute end all be all. No, I'm not going. If you cheat on me, it's over with. So here's the question that I would ask: would you at all, in that circumstance, be interested in trying to figure out what was going through that person's mind or what led to that? Would you be introspective enough to look at your relationship and say, okay, well, were there any things that I could have contributed to this? Would you be willing to discuss that with your partner? Say if you've had 10 plus years with them.
I would discuss it all day, but when I move forward with the relationship with that person, no. That's my non-negotiable. So I would say, I would be open to having the conversation so we can be civil, but I would not continue a relationship with that person.
I also want to say that I think that people are dismissive, especially millennials, Gen Z, are dismissive in dating. But I also think dating is when you can be dismissive. Dating is getting to know a person. You can quickly be like, no, this isn't for me. For the example of a 10 plus year relationship, there's different expectations that have gone into that. You would assume, I'm assuming there's open communication or there's something that has made someone continuously opt in. I think in relationships long term, you every day wake up and are committed to doing the work. You don't get days off. You go through things. Everyone has what they will stay through and what they'll work through, what their non-negotiables are. But I think that it's okay to be dismissive in dating. And I think we need to let people know and kind of reinforce that, because people go through shit that compromises their standards and what they want for someone they don't even know when it's early on. And I think a lot of people see red flags that they ignore when it's early on in a relationship, and then they find themselves in something 5 years, 10 years later, but you've accepted that since day one. So now it's okay, you're what your standard is, you start moving the bar. But I think it's healthy. And I was raised by boomer women who were empowered from Mississippi, who were like, you date and you know what you want, and I'm not committing to someone who I don't feel, at least I feel comfortable knowing them to an extent. And then you continue to get to know someone. But I think the expectation that there's no work that goes into a relationship is trash. The expectation that you're going to have this relationship that people put on Instagram or whatever is garbage. There's work that goes into it. You continue to grow. You need to feel like you can be vulnerable and go to someone, like you said, Kristen, and tell them that your needs are evolving and changing, and give them the opportunity to show up for you. And then also accept that someone could say, this isn't what I want, and then know that maybe you've outgrown each other.
Yep. Absolutely.
I agree. I agree with a lot of that. And since we're talking about social media, we're talking about how the world operates right now, agree or disagree, but I feel like there's this idea of instant gratification, right? You can get on the social media, you can hit the like button, you can hit the dislike or whatever. You can go in your kitchen, you can set the oven to 475, and in 3 minutes it's going to be 475. If you want to watch something on Disney Plus or Hulu or whatever, you can hit the button and it happens. It happens for you, bam, bam, in the matter of a second. And I believe that like somewhere along the way, people in our country, in the world, they expect everything to operate like that. Like I need this to change. You should change instantly. And the world doesn't operate like that. Relationships don't operate like that. Life doesn't operate like that. And so change it's inevitable. It happens. For us to be in a relationship 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, to Kristen's point, like you just have to be able to embrace those things and manage them, to communicate, to talk about them, so that you can work through those things. Like life isn't just me picking up this remote control, bam, being able to change you in this certain aspect. It don't work like that.
Yeah, and
yeah.
To piggyback off of what Lex was saying, like when Aisha was talking about the dating phase and the married phase, I do think that there are differences, but I think that kind of to Kristen's point, that in this dating phase or with this generation, I can't really speak to it from a really knowledgeable perspective, but just the sense that because there's so many options, I do agree with the fact of non-negotiables, and people should stand on those things, especially if they're core to them. But I think because there's so many options and you can literally just swipe left or right, I don't know which one is the right one, but it's like, if there's this thing that I don't like and it's not core to me, but I've decided I don't like this right now. Like people, even in a dating phase, are just not feeling like they have to put in any work or even give grace to anyone else. And they're not willing to do any work. So even though you are in a dating phase, in a married phase, you have to do the work. So shouldn't you be doing work in the dating phase as well? If that makes sense.
To an extent. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm dating right now and I'm single, and this has been a conscious decision. This has been a choice, like I know everybody out here who's been single at some point, you're confronted with options of being in a relationship, but you get to a point where you don't want to, you want the list that, what is your name again? Tina?
No, Kathy, I think.
Kathy? That she spoke of. You want to fulfill that list, so you stay in that space and you keep dating. Like, trust me, I have some non-negotiables, but at the same time, I have grown to a space of I'm far less dismissive in certain instances. If I were to key in on, things that I don't like about someone to a point of fault and just, I wouldn't be dating anybody. Because there's going to be something that everyone presents that they bring to the table where you're like, I really don't like that. I don't want that, but you have to give people grace. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense, but
no, it does. So we had someone on Facebook that just says the dynamics have changed. A lot of women don't have to stay in a situation for financial support. This changes what your non-negotiables are. I do think a lot of women especially get married because that's still a bar for women to meet and rush to get married to someone they have no business being married to. This was by Janine. Now I wanna pivot slightly because while this is substantive, there was something that got said earlier that kind of made me chuckle, because a lot of this thread began when we were talking about if you saw your significant other like looking at someone that had like a sultry picture, and that kind of is what led to this. But one of you guys said something which was actually going to be a caveat that I was going to add to. How do you all feel if what they were looking at, like I think it was you, Casey, that said like, if your significant other was looking at someone who had something that you didn't have and you saw a lot of it, it would kind of make you question like, well, why is he feeling me? What if, and this is to everyone, what if they were looking at primarily the women? What if they were looking at men, right? Like, what if they were looking, like if you broke into that social media or you went into the history, you went into their Pornhub and all they were looking at, right? And this is not to be judgmental on a person's orientation or preference. You know what I'm saying? It's just saying us as individuals, because I thought what you said, Casey, was real, right? Like, you know, once it'd be one thing if he was looking at a bunch of women that look similar to you, right? You'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, well, shit, she bad too, you know. But if you saw something that looked very different, like you said, very tall, or you know, just other elements that made you think like you know,
or
like
if it was all white women, like I would.
right. Or actually, I was gonna say all Russian, right? Where it's like, oh shit, he like Asian women. You know, you'd be like, oh, he got a now he could have like an Asian fetish. But what if it was something that you couldn't compete with? Because on some levels, you can still compete with the Asian woman, right? Because you still got the same equipment. What if they did not have the
compete
same?
with people? You don't.
Yeah,
You
competing is probably the wrong word.
Someone's allowed to have their selection of porn or fetishes or kinks that they like, and it's not a threat to me. My porn taste, to be honest, I prefer to look at videos that would have women in them versus men, because I just think women are more aesthetically pleasing. But does my husband need to be worried that I'm actually more attracted to women? No. But if you're looking at like who is more aesthetically pleasing and in these environments, yeah, that's what it is. If I looked in his Pornhub account and saw that he looks at videos of men and he didn't present that ever as something he was into, I would talk to him about it. But like, it goes down to trust in a relationship. If someone's cheating, it doesn't matter what their porn taste is. They're gonna like act on it.
I'm not even talking about cheating, but I'm glad that you did develop that, because I was just curious to know, like, because and even when we talk about
people got to be allowed to have outlets. People are. I don't want to shame someone for what they like, because then I think that it creates an environment where they don't want to talk to you about it.
No, and I agree with that, but I think that, you know, it's one thing if you know that in the early stages and you have an opportunity to develop into that, knowing that my significant other has a broad palette of interest, right? It's one thing when you think that I'm the apple of his or her eye, and then after you've committed to it, you realize, oh shit, I'm just, you know, a color on the spectrum.
That's not the same. That's just like, it's just a porn.
I don't think really. Okay, stop the bullshit, because I'll put it like this: everybody on this call right now might be woke as hell. However, there are not a lot of women who would be comfortable with a man looking at gay porn if they got into an intimate relationship with them and they were talking about moving forward, because it's much more acceptable for women to be bi-curious and to experiment than it is for men. And I'm not just saying inside of the male community, I'm saying that women hold us to this standard where we are not allowed the same privileges that you guys have. And this has been historically, right? So I get it that you guys may be evolved, but a lot of people that may be watching this are not, right? So I'm just trying to keep it a buck, right?
Isaac, I would say that I would ask him about it. I mean, I wouldn't like, I'm not searching on Pornhub to see everything, but if I happen to stumble upon it, I'd be like, oh, you know, like, hey, like I saw, like you watched this, like, you know, how was it? You know, I try to like engage and like see what it is, you know, was it something where like you just stumbled and like it was a rabbit hole like it is when I like find puppy videos, like, you know.
Tina, no. The first moment you look, you saw a deep dive and you saw, oh shit, this is his favorite. Like,
yeah, I would ask
more of this.
I think I'm trying to be more open in my older age and not really like jump to conclusions and have conversations with my partner. Like that's where I would like try to, you know, engage with them.
So here's the deal, like, just to your point, because I think of myself as incredibly progressive. I think that I am on the scale of 1 to 10 progressive. I think I'm like an 8, you know, 8.5. But if I found like a deep dive, especially with the men that I have been with in my, you know, history, it would be completely out of the norm to have seen their porn selection as just male on male. Like that would cause, I don't know that alarm. It would just be the complete opposite.
Yeah, alarm.
Yeah,
I'd be alarmed at some of your exes having that be their Pornhub.
So their machismo and sort of the way they conduct themselves, like to see, you know, gay porn on their history, whatever the case is, it would be alarming to me. And so it would cause a conversation. But with a lot of them, I don't even know that I would feel comfortable asking them. But that's also why I'm not with them any longer. But to your point, no, I think most people, it could be uncomfortable for them. I think for a lot of us, we are evolved and we're comfortable having these conversations with our significant others. But for most people, that could be a deal breaker for them.
Do you need to share your taste in porn or your porn preferences if you engage in like porn at all? Do you need to share that with your partner? Is that something that you're doing together, or is that something that is for you, you're like solo?
Honestly, I think it just depends on how important porn is in your life. Like, you know, if you're watching it regularly and it's a really pivotal part of you getting to sleep, like, you know, it may be something that you want to can conduct the conversation with your partner about. But, you know, if you just kind of watch it here and there, it's not that big of a deal. But I think if you know that you have a kink that is outside of the norm, outside of the society's norm, and that your partner, especially if you are a man and it is your woman, you may want to, I don't want to say open with that, but you may want to conduct that conversation sooner rather than later, because it could be something that's alarming to her.
Would anyone feel comfortable saying that? Does anybody have a kink that they feel is outside of societal norms that they feel comfortable sharing? And if they do feel comfortable sharing, can you share how you brought that to any partner you've had?
Ain't nobody about to tell you that.
Ain't nobody say that. But porn is Fight Club.
I mean, like, I don't know that.
Wait,
I
wanted to hear Omar's point.
Porn is Fight Club. No one talks about Fight Club, right? Like, porn sites are the #1 visited sites, but they never show up in reports or statistics as the most visited sites. Why do you think that is? Because no one should be talking about it.
That's
It's something.
in the U.S. You go outside of the U.S. and people are very open with what they like sexually, and I think that's why
A lot of places not allowed.
Aren't having the orgasms they deserve, because.
But a lot of places, porn isn't allowed in a lot of governments. They shut them down. But here's the thing: porn is a secret, right? It's between you and Jesus. You know what I mean? What you do, right? And that's what porn is. Only you and Jesus should know about what you're doing when it comes to porn.
But
it's something you share with people.
Partner's also interested in, like, why you could watch it together, or if it's something that you want to try, or if it's just something you want to do on like a solo tip, that's fine too. But nothing's wrong with discussing.
Do you guys feel like we should do that though? Like, do y'all really feel like we should watch porn together? I'm kind of almost
for you. Why not?
Every couple is different. Like, what you're
a couple can't even pick out food together. A couple can't even pick out food together. Now they're gonna pick out porn preference.
Honestly, I've done that.
That's what turns you on. If that's what you and your partner like, yeah, do it. Some partners don't do it, but I don't think there should be like shame to it. Like, if that's
Omar doesn't seem like he cares enough about his partner's orgasm to fucking check in with them about what the fuck they want based on what he presents here.
I personally don't.
You're really concerned about my preference, Aisha. I don't know.
I'm not that concerned. This is like 20% concerned.
Aisha, you are making an assumption, but I do want to hear about Daniel's point of view.
No, I really was just kind of piggybacking off of Tina. Like, I've watched porn with a partner before, and in that particular situation, it was, hey, well, what would you want to watch? What is something that you're interested in? What is one of your kinks? And we go and we search it. And I mean, I'm not even gonna say oftentimes, every time that would happen, it will result in us having sex. But
well,
yeah, it was just, I don't see anything wrong with it, honestly.
Aisha, to your point, this is not my kink, but I can tell you about an experience I had with someone that he was courting me, and it was, this whatever. Anyway, he was into tickling. So it was
what? You gotta break that down. Tickling, like
what is tickling?
You know what? That sounds like people that have you all ever heard of furries? Like people that like to get dressed up in like outfits and like have sex.
We have conventions here.
I thought this was a safe space.
Go, Casey.
I'm sorry. You're right. Like, namaste. Okay, go. You're absolutely correct.
So he wanted to hear me like, because I think we lived in it. This was a long time ago. We lived in different places, I think, and he wanted to hear what it sounded like as though I was being tickled. So he was like, even if it's not happening, basically his kink was like tickling, and it was not like there was no penetration involved, none of that. Like, he didn't care where I was being tickled. That was just his thing.
He weird.
That's my dream.
I used to date a guy.
Did y'all hear Lex? Y'all hear Lex?
During sex, that's
he
the kink,
weird.
but I don't feel like
He
that's
was the tickle monster.
This
He was
is
the
like
tickle monster.
All right.
This is making me think of.
Fake it. That's all I'm gonna say. It was really hard to fake
Oh
it.
my God, where's Brittany when you need her? Where's
Right.
Brittany?
I ain't gonna judge that man, but I judge the man.
Shit out of you right now.
You guys,
I can't wait till she gonna roast you tomorrow. I can't wait.
Can Omar show up as the tickle monster for the Halloween show? I just want to see his
Yo,
costume.
I wanted
It's
to,
gonna be
I
like
wanted
this.
to, I wanted to kind of make a point with that. I mean, you know, you guys can answer or not, but maybe we should give like the viewers an option to, or have them give their opinion on what they believe we should come up as our representatives. Like,
it's not bad, Daniel.
Who's Captain Save a Ho? Who's like,
You're Captain Save a Ho. I'm
Sasha.
gonna be Brittany right now. We already know that's your costume.
Oh my God.
And you're gonna open up your poetry to save them. You're gonna read
So
them a scroll.
we just gonna keep bullying me, huh?
Yes.
This is what we gonna keep doing. All right.
Listen, man, back to look. They took you back to 12 and 13. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And
Okay,
Daniel,
okay,
and
okay,
straight up, Daniel, like you seem like an entrepreneur type, and I have a business opportunity I want to discuss with you after this. 'Cause I know you wanna be on vacation for the rest of your life, so I got you. You know what I mean? Where you can make money in your sleep. You know what I'm saying? Unlimited potential.
I hate you,
You know what
Omar.
I'm saying, fam?
Okay.
That
I'm never
the
telling you
residual,
anything
that's
else.
the best money.
Ever.
What'd you say, Omar? In multiple time zones while you're sleeping. You know what I'm saying?
Money while you sleeping, fam.
I'm never telling you anything else.
Paid off the efforts of other people. Okay. Listen.
All I'm gonna say about the tickle kink is it was hard to fake that it was happening. Which is
Can you give us an example?
That man, he different.
He doesn't always feel good.
Can you show us,
that man different.
Can you let us hear you know how you would do it? Can you give us an example of your tickle
Daniel's
sessions?
kink.
No.
But Casey, are you ticklish? Are you ticklish?
Okay, so first of all, I don't fucking like being tickled. So just so we're all the way clear, if anyone's in my presence, don't fucking tickle me. I'm grown. Like, don't touch me.
But are you ticklish?
So I think I'm sure I am in some areas.
Wait a minute. What song is that? Yeah, are you ticklish? Yeah, look at me. I'm fat. Look at you. I'm skinny. I'm so
Humpty dance.
Underground.
What was that?
Humpty dance.
Tickle her bank account. Do something valuable.
I don't like either.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Tina. Go
I
ahead.
like that as a T-shirt, Aisha. By the way.
Okay. So obviously, I'm running a little bit over. This is the last quick transition, right? We are talking about cuffing, right? And the cuffing season. You know, because when we talk about living inside of a bubble, we've talked about different areas of being closed and open-minded. However, when we talk about the bubble, another way to flex the analogy is that the NBA is currently deeply involved in their finals, right? And the only way that they were able to sustain the sports season is they had to sequester themselves in a bubble, right? And I kind of feel like the cuffing season is kind of undergoing the exact same thing. Like, this is typically around the time that the NBA season would be beginning. But because of obviously COVID, they had to make augmentations. This is typically the time that people in the colder, you know, mid-eastern, eastern, and probably mid-east and east, because out west is still warm and south is still warm. But for those of you guys that don't know what cuffing season is, just to give a brief description or education, in those areas where we actually have 4 seasons, during the colder months, people don't go out as much as they normally do, right? And so, as much as you love hot girl summer and kind of being out and fast and free, men love it, women love it. Uh, when it gets colder, you don't find yourself being as mobile as you generally are. And so you're like, you know what? I kind of want to be inside. So if you haven't found yourself a relationship, generally around those early fall months, you kind of get that, you know what, it's about time that I make a decision, right? And while you may be looking for someone that you feel is substantive and that can go the long haul, there are times where it's like, you know what, I just need someone to get me through the winter, right? I don't want to be alone. I need someone to help me pass the time that I can cuddle with. So that is where cuddle season kind of began. And I think it's been going on for a while. It's like hibernation, right? And so in Chicago specifically, it's been a thing. Around August, September is when you start seeing people make their selections. All right, we've been dating, we've been flirting through all of these months. Here we are in September. It's about to start getting cold. Who is it that I want to hibernate with? And so that's what we consider to be cuffing season. But now, we've been in quarantine, or we should have been in quarantine for the last couple of months. So I'm just curious to think, how do you guys think that's going to affect this next stage? Do you think it's like, all right, we kind of in the same space? Like, like me personally, I don't think there's going to be a cuffing season. I think it's going to be canceled a little bit, like, or at the very least. And when I say happen in a bubble, meaning it couldn't happen the same way it normally does. I think we're in this very weird as gray space where we're just trying to figure it out. And I don't even know if weather plays into it at this point. Like, I'm just curious to get you all's perspective on how you think people will continue to date as we move into these colder months that we normally hibernate.
I think it's just that, I honestly feel like it depends on a large part of it depends on the location. I'm in a very highly populated city where, as an athlete, I took the proper precautions to kind of stay in my lane because of the obvious reasons. I got stuff that I need to do. However, that I do have friends who are out here doing their thing, and having conversations with them. They're on the Bumbles, the Tinders, the Hinges, and all this other stuff, and life is moving on. It's like, me personally, I'm just like, wow, like you're cool with that, like you feel safe in knowing that you can go on these dates and things like that, on the basis of this person potentially having COVID or otherwise. Like, I don't know, it's interesting to me, but I think that definitely people are continuing to, at this particular time in October of 2020, 7 months in, I feel like people, their comfort level is like, all right, well, let me get out here and try it. But again, that might be dependent upon everyone and what they have going on in life. Like, I have to be a little more cognizant. Some of my friends who are just in the world doing what they do on a daily basis, nothing wrong with that, but they may not be as as cognizant to that type of situation. So it is interesting to listen to their situations, like, okay, I went on a date with this person or that person. But
Kathy, what are you doing? Because you live somewhere cold and you actively date.
Let's just say I'm not actively dating, but you know what? So what I've been observing is I do feel like a cuffing season happened, but it was just, I'm sorry, cuffing season and the recruiting season kind of happened, right? Because I feel like a lot of people I know that were, cuffing season usually ends right around Valentine's Day, but I feel like because of COVID, people kind of people kind of spilled into April, right? Because I know a lot of people broke up in April, June, because they started they had gotten the itch, but then, Corona happened, the lockdown happened. I do think that I feel like a lot of men, like right around Labor Day, a lot of men just were kind of like calling, I'm walking down the street, they're trying to holler. So I do feel like people are trying to lock people down. People are trying to not even lock people down, but people are trying to find people for cold. But it's hard because for me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be stereotypical, but I will be stereotypical. I feel like men are a little bit more lax about coronavirus because I meet so many men that are just like, oh, I don't really care. Like, we'll go out, we'll do this. And I'm just like, I don't know you. Like, how are we going to socially distance,
Do you have a lineup? Do you have how many people do you have lined? Not how many, I'm sorry. You can keep that to yourself.
No, here's the thing.
Do you have people to keep you warm this winter?
No. But that's just because I'm on something different right now where I'm just like, I hate to say it, but sex is very easy for a woman to have. And I'm just like, I kind of want more. So
sex is
here's the thing, as a woman,
Lex is amazed. He's like,
here's the thing.
I'm marveled right now.
Here's the thing. Huh? As a woman, like I could, if I wanted sex right now today, it's easy for me to get. I think for a lot of men, it's easy to get. But I think most men will offer you sex before they offer you anything else. No offense. But so
not a ride.
Yeah, hey, Kathy, you said that you on this screen. You said that like can you give a like a verbal description of physical description? Like you said that like, all right, I can get this any time, every time. Like
here's the thing. I feel like most women feel this way. I know I feel this way. Like if I wanted to have sex with an attractive man soon, I could.
But you said attractive man now. Earlier it was just like, okay,
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. Like, I will say, as a woman, men offer you sex. It's easy to come by. For some women, it might not be, but I'm just saying it's easy. It's easier for me to get sex than other things. So for me, I don't place that high of a value on it. So I don't really need a lineup because if it's penis plentiful.
Kathy, all the women on Facebook Live are like, yes, true. So women are being inundated with sex all the time. It's the easiest thing to get, has low value.
What did Chris Rock say? Anytime a dude is doing something nice for you, he's offering you dick. Like, can I open the door for you? Can I get you some dick? That is what's happening. So yes, you're absolutely correct.
It's penis is very, unless it's maybe on OnlyFans it's expensive, but in the open market, penis is cheap right now. Okay. I don't have a lineup, but it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, you really have to figure out, like, are you safe? I do know people who are dating, and I know, like, we have a mutual friend who met somebody via an app, and she was telling me that she was like, they socially distanced, like via Zoom or I think FaceTime for 2 or 3 weeks, got to know each other. I think it was like maybe a month before they actually went out. And I think I'd be willing to do that, but I think when I do meet men, they're like, okay, well, let's go out in 2 days, and I'm just like, so what are we gonna do? How is this gonna work out? And so it's been hard trying to, I think, like I said, a lot of men are more comfortable. I'm like, okay, well, these are my parameters, and maybe.
Have you gone back to any old dudes? Because I know the pandemic has people crawling out of the abyss. So have you had any old dudes who used to be in the lineup who you're revisiting because there's an established level of trust with them?
But that's just because let's just say I've just kind of cut a lot of that stuff out just for me.
Have they been hitting you up?
Oh yeah, men are hitting you up, but I think what I'm realizing is a lot of men aren't able to get, like, even if, let's say, women, it's like emotionally men are hitting me up a lot. Like they just want, like, it's like, why do you want to emotionally connect? I feel like that's one thing that I'm finding a lot of, like, men who are, if they realize, okay, well, I don't want you in that way, they still want to emotionally connect. And so that's been one thing.
Do you send them your Cash App?
I should be like, here's my Zelle.
You
have a lot of jackets you want to buy this fall.
You need OnlyFans for your outfits. Like, I know OnlyFans has the it's got the moniker that it's for like sexual reasons, but like people put out content on OnlyFans and you have the best outfits I've seen.
Right.
You know what? So I was thinking about doing OnlyFans because I have a friend who I always like he's a guy friend, and I always try on all my outfits for him, right? So I'm like, I buy stuff and I'll do like, okay, like it's time for the fashion show. So I was like, I wonder if people would pay for this.
Girl, you send me DMs sometime on Instagram, and I'm like, I'd pay for your like your fashion show in the fitting room. I'll be your first OnlyFans subscriber.
Okay. That's a good idea. But yeah, so that's what I've been thinking. But anyways, but back to cuffing season. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it's playing out for others. For myself, it's the dating season has kind of been strange because people haven't been dating. Like I've gone out on a few dates, like to the patios and stuff like that. But I'm like, I'd be interested to know like how many people were able to actually go out, get a new lineup, and secure their squad. Maybe some of the guys can talk about it.
They don't want to.
I'm basing this off of friends who I have, because I got a girl.
Well, what about Daniel? Do you have something to ask?
Lex, Kristen's not on the call anymore.
No. But what I was gonna say, only thing I was gonna say is I base my response off of people who I have. I hang around a number of just random, or for the sake of the conversation, random people, and I hang out with a number of athletes as well. But I just like let me get my thoughts together. Let that man Daniel talk.
Not on the call anymore. You're in a safe space.
I would also agree with
who's in a safe space.
Lex, Kristen dropped off the call.
She did. Oh,
yeah, she did.
So Isaac,
hey, because I feel like as an athlete, I was like, all right, I don't even know if I like what am I going to say that's safe right now?
No. Listen, I'll be mildly reckless by sharing other people's information, right? Like, and
but you run the show.
and that's what I do. I play devil's advocate, right? Like, so I share, opposing views that I've gathered from pulling in other people's content. So when we're talking about like this new space inside the bubble, right? Like it's fascinating because it is very similar to what you've seen happen with sports. You might not have people in the stands, but you definitely have players on the field. Okay. So you might not have people that are cheering the same way that they used to. These games are not happening the same way that they do, but there are still trophies that are being handed out is all I'm getting at, right? Because, where there's a will, there's a way. And I have heard some stories about people that are still getting it in. Like, let me just go ahead and just share some things with you guys. And I don't want to do this because at this current moment, our glorious president of the United States is fighting COVID-19, okay? So
allegedly.
Right, exactly.
Okay, allegedly, right? Allegedly. So I don't want to say anything that's endorsing reckless behavior. However, I know that there are some people that are afraid to hop on a plane. Let me go ahead and paint a picture for you. Right now is probably one of the safest times to be on a plane inside the next 2 years, right? Because they are currently going through social distancing measures. And when you go to an airport, it's about 20-30% what it naturally would be, right? So is there a threat? Absolutely. But that threat has always existed, right? You got to wear a mask. You got to do all these different things or whatever. I can see a reality that happens maybe a year from now where they have a vaccine and now all of a sudden people feel comfortable with getting on a plane and traveling. However, the threat will still be here. The only difference is now there's about 200% more people in the airport, right? So what ends up occurring is that during this period, the real players are like, shit, I'm coming up, right? That's why have you all seen all of these videos on Instagram with these ghetto chicks that be fighting on like Spirit Airlines? And it's like, why am I seeing this shit now in abundance and I wasn't seeing it a couple of years ago? Because now plane tickets are extra cheap, right? So they're like the players in the game are getting out there, right? People that do wretched shit, they can care less about COVID. They can care less about COVID, and that's unfortunate, but they can. So, like, if you find yourself in a thirsty position, the only difference now is the tickets are cheaper and things are wider open, right? Like, so the responsible people are sequestering themselves and they are like, no, I don't want to catch it. The people that don't give a shit, the people that don't wear condoms, they like, yo, I'm out here. You know what I'm saying? So it's literally a wide open field for people that want to be reckless. It's the most bizarre situation that I see going on right now in life, right?
I
Like,
think Eddie wants to know. Eddie specifically on Facebook asked what Robert is doing in terms of dating during the pandemic.
Come
so
on.
not to put him on the spot, but people on the Facebook Live that are watching are like, we want to know, they're interested. So do you
Robert,
mind sharing?
Holla at us, Robert.
Oh, I told you I just date. I go out with whoever want to go out. I don't have no restrictions. I do
But how
have
are
a
you
couple of
doing it during the pandemic? Have you changed anything?
No.
You're wearing
Nope.
a mask. You're not social distancing.
Well, you know what? I do a lot of I do virtual dating first. So I talk to a lot of people. Then a lot of people, I haven't met a lot of new people because we stuck in the house mostly. And when we do go out, you so limited. You got like an hour and a half to sit down and talk or have a cocktail, and then they rushing you back out. So you can't really get to know a person. So you got an hour and a half or less to get to know them. Then you go to virtual dating. But mostly I'm still dating the same people. I haven't met anybody new since we started with this going on. So everybody that I'm dating right now is old news. I don't know how cuffing season is gonna go for me. I'm just taking it day by day. If you call me and we both feel like getting busy, we gonna get busy. You come over for a cocktail, we hang out.
What kind
We
of
both on
virtual
the same
dates are you
page.
doing?
Huh?
What kind of virtual dates have you been doing?
Basically, I would do. My first one I set up where it's like I just sent her some food. It was real simple because I work for Grubhub, so I get to order food on credit. So and then I said, well, let's do a special drink, and then I just sent her an invite. It was so funny because she didn't even know I sent her an invite. I had to call and let her know. Did you check your email? I sent her. She's like, oh hell, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah, that's tonight. Let's do it. So I've been doing a lot of virtual dating and just talking, and pretty much I'm on the same page with a lot of ladies. If we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it. We're not going anywhere. They might say we go get a glass of wine, then let's go back to your place and just chill. I pretty much keep it comfortable around here. So when you come by, pretty much everything is here. And
Are
just
you
like
checking their temperature? Like,
Huh?
they come over, do you like check their temperature, make them wash their
Oh,
hands?
man, I have it all. People take pictures. I have a thing to check the temperature. I have a wand that does the packages when I get my mail. I have face masks. So they usually take pictures and send them to their friends like, Dad, oh boy, not playing over here. I'm like, we're gonna be together for a few hours.
I like that.
One of my guy best
normalize
friends,
that.
one of my guy best friends started like talking to this girl, and he like was trying to fly her out. Like he was like, "Hey, like come out to Seattle."
Was it Tina? Was it a direct flight or was it 4 flights in a boat?
No, it was a direct flight, but he bought the tickets, but she didn't end up like coming out. But then he was like, "Hey, can I fly out?" Like I think like on a Monday he talked to her. He's like, "Hey, can I fly out on Tuesday and like I'm gonna stay at a hotel, but like I want to spend time with you." So like he flew out and they spent time together.
I mean, just like you posted a thing for the costume for the freak show. So I was talking to some of my friends on chat, and I sent it to them. They was like, "Oh hell yeah, we in for that." So, like
you said the costume for the freak show, huh? That's what
Yeah,
that's how you explained it. That's how you sent the text out. Tequila tells about to have a costume for the freak show. They was like, hell yeah.
People want their freak flag
You know
to
what,
fly.
Isaac? We were sitting here talking about it because you know a lot of them, and we were sitting here and I took a picture of when you put it on the screen. They was like, because they were just talking about Halloween is canceled. One of my friends posted like a little exotic costume that she wore, and she's like, I'm like, no, it's not. Here you go. And then everybody else joined in on the concert, like, oh yeah, we could do that. Yeah. And like we already then booked up our trip for Fort Lauderdale for New Year's Eve. So it's like 10 of us rented out a Airbnb, and we paid for that the other day. Like I just said, the airport and flying is like the safest thing right now. We like We already got our plans set up for New Year's Eve. We ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, like the girl was saying, we got jacuzzi and everything. I'm like, yeah, we all single. And first thing somebody said, we're gonna be skinny dipping. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Okay, see, it's about to be lit in that house. Nope.
Listen.
They're gonna have a live stream, but you need to pay
for COVID and for STDs before that.
What is that? They catching it all. Right. Oh goodness. Listen. You know, it was my intention. It was my pure intention to limit this show to 2 hours, right? Sometimes we damn near go 4, but I was like, I'm gonna limit it to 2. But I see we hitting this 3-hour mark, and I want to be responsible because we are trying to be more conscientious of time as we move forward. However, I do want to thank everyone for participating in this installment of the Tequila Tales. Don't really have much of an opinion, but what I will say is 2 things that I said a moment ago. I want you all to jump inside of the conversation. Aisha posted it inside of the conversation thread. So, like, here's the deal. Groups can get a little funny style sometimes, and I know that. You know what I mean? Like, it's hit or miss. But one thing that I have, admittedly, and I take personal pride, even though I have very little to do with it, but I do take personal pride in knowing that as of this moment, I absolutely love the energy that exists inside of the conversation, because it feels like the same energy that we have inside of the live shows, on the podcast, inside of the virtual shows, is the exact same energy that we have inside the conversation. And so the basic intention was, how do we continue the conversation between when we have these virtual shows, right? Like, because the conversation is supposed to continue. And I've absolutely enjoyed how involved everybody has been and how everybody has contributed. And if you are watching this, or if you are connected to this brand, you understand what it is that we represent, which is, like I said, our motto: with love, we all have a story to tell, right? Like, it's not about us trolling people. It's not about us trying to antagonize you, but it is about us wanting to share openly our stories and sometimes challenge one another, right? And so, I have seen a couple of groups that I became a big fan of, and I have been very pleased to see how the group has been managed thus far, right? Like, I mean, we have, in my opinion, some rock stars who I catch myself reading the post and reading the comments and literally laughing out loud. You know how sometimes you send your boy or your girl a text and they say LOL, but them niggas ain't really laughing. They send you LMAO. You're not really laughing. I literally laugh at these posts. I'm sending them to my peoples. I'm calling people and laughing out loud because we have some humorous individuals inside of what it is that we've created. I also want everybody, as Rob just shared, to come to the freak show. He called it the freak show. I called it the representative. Apparently, he sent it to his boys as the freak show. Call it whatever the hell you want, but be involved, right? We're going to have, it's going to be a little different. It's going to still be the same substantive discussion, but it's going to have other elements and caveats involved as well. And so we're really excited about it. We have a tequila sponsor. It is the first Black woman owned tequila sponsor is going to be sponsoring this event. I believe it is called Antil. I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I believe it's Antil. Did I say that right, Casey? Antil? Is that how it's said? Antil?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So they're from Detroit, everyone. So it's for Chicago, Detroit is like our little brother. You know what I mean? But amazing brand. We had a meeting with them the other day, and her story is incredible. We'll probably do a live session at some point, just so that everybody can become familiar with them. I was very compelled. She's a breast cancer survivor and just a warrior, and her husband, they've built an amazing brand. And, I'm just really excited to be partnering with them moving forward, and we're going to do a lot of exciting things. We also have a couple of other, we'll call it programming, that's going to be coming in the near future. So I'm telling everybody about this. I don't even want to tell you all what's happening. I just want to let you know that very soon you're going to see a lot more than the virtual Tequila Tales. But I want everyone to know incredibly how much I appreciate not just your support, your patronage, but like your involvement. Because it's not just about support. Like, I want more than support. I want involvement, because a conversation can't be support. You ever try to talk to a person that's just supporting everything you say? Like that ain't nothing but an ad libber, right? Like, that's like you're friends with the Migos and you say shit and they're like, yup, hell yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, don't nobody need that shit. That ain't what this is. I want people that hear what you say and they're gonna challenge you, right? They hear what you say and they're gonna add value. And what this has been up to this point has been just that. And so with every new thing that we do, I want it to feel very collaborative. I want to thank everybody that's been watching on YouTube, that's been watching on Facebook. We're paying attention to all of your comments, all of your suggestions, and don't hold back, right? Like, feel free to send us direct messages. If there are things that you want to see, send them, right? Like, if there are things that you think could add value or could be better, send them. If you want to jump inside of one of these virtual rooms, send it and let us know. This is a discussion, right? Like, this is about all of us, right? So yeah, that's all I got. Am I forgetting anything, ladies? I've got handlers right now, so I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Am I missing anything? You know what I'm saying? Are we good?
Our Cash App, because it costs money to put this in.
Right. What is it? Hashtag the Tequila Tales, right? On all platforms. You know what I'm saying? So
we got Venmo, we got Cash App, we got Zelle. All those things are
all that shit. Okay. $5. What did my girl say on Coming to America? While we respect the money that jingles, we'd much rather have the money that folds. Yeah. So give from your heart.
We like the money that folds.
We like the money that folds. They're like, nigga, I'm gonna send you 50 cents. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, everything counts. And so does your attention. And we appreciate it and we love you. And with that being said, it's a wrap.